Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Thursday night. It is time for Revolutionary Change. I'm Jen Perelman.
I'm Peter Hager. And if you notice any red spots, sometimes get a little too close. But I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay. I think you're the only person that talks about how you look every show more than nobody notices these things.
No, nobody ever notices anything. I'm extremely vain, Jen, remember?
You are vain. You bring this stuff up. Nobody's worried about your lighting. Nobody's worried about your little shave cut.
I have to be ready for my close-up anytime.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got an email the other day.
This is what it says. Look, he says every show. I know.
Yeah, but you see, with you, I can't tell if you're just poking at me or if you're being serious.
Both.
Yeah, well, again, I'm not vain. I don't know why you would say that.
Henry, look, this is really more of what my real color is. This is closer to my real color. And this makes my life less maintenance. You see what I'm saying? So I appreciate it. Thank you. But highlights are more maintenance. And it was fun for a little while. And now I'm back to being a single process girl so that I can do my hair within 2 hours every 10 weeks. See what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you're vain too.
No, he said something. I didn't say anything. He pointed it out. He said he likes it better. We like better with light hair.
You know, you said something to me prior to us going live, and I was only bringing it up to the audience, and now you want to attack me for it. So I don't really.
You were ridiculous. You were being so silly. I felt a little bad that you had a boo-boo, but I didn't think you needed to.
Did you? Did you really though?
I didn't feel bad that you had a boo-boo.
Well, it's not that bad, but in case anybody noticed it, I didn't want anyone to think that I was doing self-harm. I was not. So.
Philip Blair, what is a shiksa goddess? Not me.
No, definitely
not me.
I'll tell you what a shiksa goddess is, ladies and gentlemen. It's a goyim that a Jewish man is attracted to.
No, but no. Shiksa is a non-Jewish girl. And yes, I do know that there are people that think it's I've seen people say it's derogatory. To us, to me, and like the people that I've ever used that around, it's not. It's just a non-Jewish girl. And it's generally said when some Jewish boy's mother is not happy because he brought home not a Jewish girl. The rest of us, we don't care. That's just the term. Like, I don't, so yeah.
Speaking of Jewish supremacy, I will leave it to anyone who still has any doubts about who controls our foreign policy, how everything works in this country. Now, the gentleman in question here, I wouldn't even call him a gentleman because he's beneath that, is Rabbi Goldberg. And when people have been wondering over the last several days, why is it that Mike Huckabee acts the way that he does, this is one of the primary drivers as we come down off of the not so important high that was the State of the Union, if you even want to call it that. The State of the Unholy Union is probably the more reasonable term.
I'm gonna keep it totally real with everyone. I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it either.
Right now, no. But I haven't even, as of right now, I haven't even seen any clips other than I saw a little brief thing where it focused on Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar in the gallery, like yelling back. But so I didn't watch it. I didn't listen to it. It's sort of like, how we all are concerned with the food that we put in our body. Well, we should be with the food we put in our bodies. That shit's poison for my brain. And there's no reason to listen to it because it doesn't matter because all they do is lie. So what's the point? It's like going to a press briefing.
Well, on top of everything else, it was the longest speech in the history of the State of the Union. And the entire time as his words. I don't know, Jen, do I have to call an audible? Do we have to start with Trump instead of...
Well, I mean, if you want to get it over with, that's fine. I have asked you to keep it to some brief clips so as to not kill the buzz that I have going right now. Okay, so let's not start off killing the buzz.
Well, let's get right to it. This is what I had to say the other night.
Time ago, we were a dead country. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world, the hottest.
Now, to be fair, we technically might be the hottest country in the world, and not in the capacity with which that he's referring to. We
Still not that, but yeah, not in
no,
either
well,
way.
maybe not. But in terms of in terms of climate change, in terms of the overall heat index that hits us here in this country, he might be right about that.
He's not right. He's not right. I know that there's other countries that have higher heat index. That's not the point. This is so, thank you. I actually do appreciate that you picked out something that at least had like entertaining background music. So it was appropriately mocking, so that we're not just having to listen to his speech straight.
Listen, you're a really terrible person. I am about to give the greatest speech in the history of America. You believe
we're gonna go to the ridiculous highlights with the Benny Hill music.
Our country is winning again. In fact, we're winning so much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much.
You know what it's like? It's like the emperor has no clothes and he's walking around by himself in his room and thinking he looks so good. And everybody, like, nobody sees this. It's just crazy. He's crazy.
Have you heard these people that be coming up to me all the time? Mr. President, the country's the greatest it's ever been. We're winning way too much. We can't take it anymore. And I told them, you're going to get a whole lot more winning.
Thank you, David Todd. Thank you. Your mama taught you.
I say, no. You're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic
Okay,
hockey
so
team.
stop it right now. I have to just say something that just recently came up just now on my Instagram. I don't know if you saw this. So the picture, obviously, of the hockey team eating at the White House, and he just gave our gold medal winning Olympic hockey team McDonald's, which is so disgusting.
That's what he does to everybody. That's what does for everybody.
It's just so gross. And and every one of those men is so disappointing to me. Like, shame on them. This is so gross. This will be their legacy, that they went and ate McDonald's with that turd. But no, what's really cool is, do you know what the women's gold medal hockey team, where they were?
They were not at the White House. I don't know.
They were not at the White House. Do you know who was hosting them for like an elegant, like a whole meal?
Don't know. Oh, wasn't it like the Prime Minister of Canada?
No. It's Stanley Tucci.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, because he's a real food guy and a cook and all that stuff. But anywho, so I'm not exactly sure where they were, but I guarantee you what they ate was a shit ton better, and the company was definitely better.
Listen, anybody who is looking for McDonald's as a source of succulent enjoyment,
the bugs don't eat it.
The bugs don't eat it. Yeah, there you go.
The bugs don't eat it.
Well, I would still say even worse than McDonald's, or as what would be considered an extension of McDonald's. Have you ever bothered to look at what Coca-Cola does if you put it in the toilet bowl?
It cleans rust. I've seen people use it on car engines to clean rust.
Yeah, but you should drink that, definitely.
And in 1 year, we have lifted 2.4 million Americans, a record.
He lifted them where? Wait, this is so silly.
He's saying that he lifted 2.4 million Americans out of poverty. What he's actually saying is that CBO estimates that about 2.4 million people in total will be cut from SNAP under the provision in a typical month.
Okay, so this is how this works. To explain this, like, to make it as clear for people, especially if they're just listening. So essentially what he's saying is he got people out of poverty by kicking them off the service rolls so that they don't appear to be in need. So he didn't actually take people out of poverty. He took took services away from poor people. That's what he did. And now he's claiming that we took. No, they're just not listed anymore because you're not giving them benefits.
Correct. It's like the unemployment numbers when people stop searching and they don't count them anymore. So
That's oh, it was in Milan. Okay, thank you, Josie. They were okay. So they were in Milan with Stanley Tucci. Okay, I know, but I guarantee you the food there was way better.
I'm sure it was.
Off of food stamps. So in my first year of the second term, should be my third term, but strange thing.
I mean, half the time, I don't know if he's joking or if he's just trying to prove a point that he makes the rules.
So a whole bunch of Democrats did not go, right? There's a whole bunch that didn't go. But guess who was sitting there like basically front and center?
Oh, DWS.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And her signature.
Let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information.
Now,
right there.
Now, I don't know if this was Mehdi Hassan's brain trust to do this, but the fact that they honed in on Wasserman Schultz specifically when he made this statement really speaks volumes.
I saw a couple of clips that showed her in the. I don't know if it's. I mean, she is sort of right in the. She's in the front row of that tier.
Well, notice how no one wants to sit next to her. That should not be lost on anybody.
Well, no, I think it's more that there's a bunch of Democrats that aren't there that are being absent. And again, I'm not sticking up for DWS, but there's a lot of empty seats in that chamber in general where I guess regular people have their seats where they sit, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. But this is, but watch this.
But the fact that he's talking about them and insider trading when he's become a billionaire, he's become a billionaire like he's always wanted to be. He was such a loser, but now he's a real billionaire.
Yeah, for real. Okay. Now, the idea that she's going to point her finger at the president, it's like, talk about throwing stones in glass houses.
No, but it's him criticizing Congress for insider trading and her scolding him for doing that. Because seriously, it's absurd. It's absurd that he'd be doing it given how much he's profited. And it's absurd that she would be upset about being, that he said that, right?
Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
Totally crazy.
That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness.
Okay. This little man, this is the president of the United States giving the State of the Union, and he has to go out of his way to be insulting to one person sitting there that it has nothing to do with anything he was talking. Not that he talks about anything with any coherency, just rambles, but he had to go after this woman right here. And that's how small of a man is. You are the president of the United States, and yet you have to attack this woman?
Of course he does.
That is such a small man.
Because that woman defies him. That's the problem. That woman defies him. And she's not afraid to do it. But you see, there's a difference between the way that she goes about it versus the way that Zoran goes about it. It is.
Hey, Alex, I get it. She's from Somalia. It's not his fault that she's from Somalia. First of all, it's Somalia. But it isn't about whether it's his fault. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Where she's from is really irrelevant.
Are the norm, not the exception. I've always wanted the Congressional Medal of Honor, but I was informed I'm not allowed to give it to myself, and I wouldn't know why I'd be taking it, but if they ever open up that law, I will be there with you someday.
I need a shower.
It's a stand-up. It's a stand-up comedy routine. That's what it is. So you want to see something even funnier than Trump? I'll show you something funnier.
I don't know that can be. What do you
believe me, believe me, it really can be. It turns out that the Democrats decided to have a response to Trump's.
Oh, is this Spookburger?
So you know that the Democrats are going to come up with somebody to speak on behalf of their party. And
Wait,
so,
but are we not going to, do we even need to address anything that he said before we move on to the inane response?
okay,
I'm just saying, I have nothing, like, I just think it's absurd. And I think, and what Mehdi just said in the chat, I think he's demented. I think he's surrounded by people that don't tell him the truth. I think he doesn't really know, and they tell him what he wants to hear. And it's absurd at this point.
Listen, it's absurd.
I don't know.
Ties into the bullshit that apparently the Iranians want to assassinate him. No. Netanyahu will assassinate you if you don't do as you're told. That's
all good. I assure you, Ilhan, first of all, Ilhan doesn't drink because she's a practicing Muslim. But second of all, there's no universe where an Ilhan would even share air with him.
No chance.
Not even.
You don't have to like.
That's not one of those, they're friends behind the scenes. No.
No. Ilhan is one of those representatives that truly is isolated on the Hill. And that in large part is because she wears a hijab, but also because she's not willing to give in to the demands. And Rashida's even more defiant. I mean, Rashida Tlaib was basically Thomas Massie the previous election cycle, only it didn't go anywhere. She is nowhere near on the pedestal that Massie is on right now, but I still give her credit for doing the right thing. Granted, it was because her family's getting murdered, but it is what it is. This is the broken system in real time falling apart. And so who did the Democrats decide to put up on the pedestal to respond to Trump? Somebody that actually makes Trump palatable. That's who they put up.
After working in law enforcement, I continued my career of service as a CIA officer, working undercover to protect.
Not a selling point, lady. That's not a selling point. Oh, for the love of all.
Once you're in the CIA, you are never out of the CIA. It is a career-long ambition. That is how you end up becoming the governor of Virginia. And on top of everything else, ladies and gentlemen, Abby Spankmyburger has decided to take almost because remember, it's a decision whether they want to admit it. I have to get elected. No, it's a decision. It's a decision. She's taken almost $2 million from AIPAC. Or from the Israel lobby. So this should come as no surprise.
The United States and our allies from global threats, terrorism, nuclear weapons, and the aggression of adversarial nations around the globe.
Let me also say one other thing that I don't think gets talked about enough, and one of the main reasons why Trump still has a considerable amount of appeal. There is nothing genuine about how this woman speaks. And generally speaking, there is nothing genuine about almost any politician that is given any type of a substantial platform in the Democratic Party. This is a rehearsed politician who went up there to basically spew the bullshit. That's their responsibility.
By the way, guys, just so you know, I tried to type in the word Spookburger in to post comment, and it rejected it. YouTube wouldn't let it go through, so I had to space out all the letters. Like, so I'm not sure they would not let Spookburger be in the chat. So everybody should see what happens if everybody tries to put Spookburger. Yay, Holly! They wouldn't let me do it.
Colin, can you pull up the article that I sent you from the Kansas City Star?
Yeah, see, that's how I had to do it. Blue Lantern has it. I had to do it that way. Just separate a bunch of letters. So funny.
If you really want to understand what really went down and the impact of...
Wait, what happened to the rest of her speech?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant. Okay. It's just a bunch of Trump this, Trump that, nothing about, oh, we're going to help people afford more things. Again, we know what the Democrat strategy is. This is an article from the Kansas City Star that I think really hits home the real problem here. Donald Trump talked a long time, but workers, farmers, ICE left out of big speech. You can keep going. No, I think you went a little too far. Are we at the top? Okay. Donald Trump's State of the Union speech was long. It seemed he talked about everything from crime, immigration, drug prices, taxes, and inflation at home to Venezuela, Iran, NATO, and Ukraine abroad. But when I reread it this morning, a couple things he didn't say leapt out at me. Not once did Trump mention the Border Patrol or immigration or ICE, two of the more unpopular arms of his crackdown on criminal illegal aliens. He said, serve ICE, choice, office, price, justice, but never ICE. Keep going. It's hard. It isn't hard to understand why. In the latest Washington Post poll, 60% of Americans don't like what ICE and other federal immigration enforcers are doing. Voters don't believe Trump when he says he is cracking down on criminals. That's one reason why Trump's second term unpopularity has now reached the same level it did after the pro-Trump Capitol riot on January 6, 2021. Trump's speech was among the most disciplined speaking efforts of the second administration, and so was his reaction from the Republican senators, both Kansas and Missouri. Keep scrolling. Senator Josh Hawley, who we all know is going to run for president in 2028, was mum on X during the speech, previous on Fox News with a few comments about taxes, drug prices, and attacks on Dems. We don't need to worry about what these guys are saying. Just let's get back.
I'm not sure what is this article about.
Let me please. Yeah. For four of Trump's biggest supporters, they are embracing the full spectrum of Trump's administration policy and politics. You can almost imagine them holding their noses to pick out of the few things they don't think are unpopular. Which brings me to the really big thing for Kansas and Missouri that was missing from the speech. Marshall brought a Kansas farmer to the speech, and his special guest, but not once did Trump tout with any of his policies have done for farms, farming, or agriculture. That's because all the billionaires are buying up all the farmland.
No, actually, no. Do you know what his policies have done for the farmers, for a bulk of the farmers? Because what happened is when he came in and played tariff commando and started fucking around with China, well, they stopped taking our soybeans from our soy farmers, which actually is one of the two things that we grow here. Because we only grow that and corn, really, and not even the corn that we eat. So China stopped buying the soybeans from our farmers, and they were all just going under. So now he had to come back, and then he subsidized those farmers. Okay, so he's bragging about what he did for farmers then, but at the end of the day, they still haven't even probably broken even. So that's why he doesn't talk about farmers.
For those who live in more urban areas, Trump also didn't say manufacturing and said factory only once in an odd sentence about AI data centers. The absence of anything substantive about growing America's agriculture manufacturing economy is almost admitting that his policies have failed his most loyal blue-collar fan base. That is a sure sign of coming disaster in an election year. Maybe that's why Hawley, Schmidt, Moran, and Marshall had said so little to say about Trump's big speech. And that's what counts. What counts is what's really going on economically in this country. When we think about all of the policies that have transpired over the past generation plus, everything is to the detriment of working people, especially the heartland, the upper Midwest, South. And, Trump came along like the Pied Piper saying he was going to save everybody. And of course, it was a lie. Now, why is it that he has been a fixture in politics for well over a decade now? Because the Democrats are just as bad, if not worse. So you're fucked either way, pure and simple. Now, you want to see just how fucked the United States of America really is? This is the most important part of Trump's speech during the other night.
And just over the last couple of months with the protests, they've killed at least, it looks like 32,000 protests, 32,000 protesters in their own country.
And what are you doing to the protesters in your country? And by the way, those weren't protesters they killed in Iran. They were operatives.
Can we just for a moment discuss the fact of the juxtaposition between what is being said regarding Iran versus what actually happened in Israel? And of course, you would think, Jen, if 32,000 protesters were killed, you would think that quite a few of these would have been gotten on video and sent out to the ether on the internet. Am I wrong about that? Because it seems
well,
that
it's just not true. Again, he's being told a whole bunch of things that's not true. Emmanuel Wood Schick is not offensive, and it's nowhere near like the N-word. No, I think he's surrounded with bad information. I think he very well might believe what he's saying. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I just don't understand. Like that whole, he's not the biggest moron though, because the biggest moron is the person cheering for the moron, right? So the room is full, as far as I'm concerned, of people that are infinitely dumber than him.
Oh, it gets worse.
They shot him and hung him. We stopped them from hanging a lot of them with the threat of serious violence. But this is some terrible people. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue, starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again. And are at this moment, again, pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to.
Okay, so again, I don't know if he's what. Well, I don't know if he's purposefully lying or if he doesn't really know, because both of those things, or both, maybe both. But
well, he's definitely in the dark about certain stuff for sure.
Well, but it's pathetic if he's in the dark about things that we're not in the dark about, right? Like that's the problem. It's not that he's in the dark of some things. It's just that it shouldn't be things that we know. So we know that we did no discernible damage to Iran's nuclear program or their facilities. They knew where those strikes were coming, and the strikes ended up at facilities that were empty. And we also know, and see, this is weird to me that I know this because he should know this, that even our bunker buster bombs don't go deep enough to penetrate Iran's nuclear program. So if I know that, then he should know that in theory, right? So for him to say that we destroyed their program and they've rebuilt it, no. And, it's just silly. And everyone in that room knows it. And they're all just nodding along, which again is they're the biggest tools there are the people agreeing with the tool.
I agree.
Make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference.
Now, if you look closely, if you look to just directly to the left of Trump, you look straight ahead, you see a woman in blue standing, cheering. You know who that is?
Cheering, clapping.
Clapping. You know who that is?
That's the snake.
Yeah. Snake Warren is standing and cheering for Trump by saying, Iran could never have a nuclear weapon. Fact of the matter is, if Iran did have a nuclear weapon, none of this shit would be going on.
Okay, first of all, again, and I say this a lot of times with our show, Iranians and Iranian leadership, you should have a weapon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, their people and a lot of their elected in their I don't know the name, it's not a parliament. I forget what it's called there. They have a whatever it is, but they do want to build a nuclear weapon and expand their program because they have seen our handiwork. See, they saw what we did in Libya. They've seen what we've done in Syria. They've seen our handiwork. But unfortunately, the supreme leader still has not taken away the fatwa on the development of a nuclear weapon because it is seen as a violation of the Quran. So it's interesting that the people that we choose to demonize are the people and their religion that we choose to demonize as the terrorists of the world. Yet it's that religion is the only thing that is standing between most of the secular people in Iran who want to have a nuclear weapon and having one. So I think that's a very interesting thing.
Fair enough.
Stanley Tucci hosted the women's hockey team in Milan for dinner instead of.
My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far.
Okay.
It's factually not true. It's just, and they're clapping. Those morons are, it's factually untrue. The #1 state sponsor of terrorism is us. Without, and by the way, the next closest person or country is so far down that it's insignificant. That's how we're the terrorists. Iran has never done, again, I reiterate, they've never done anything to us. All
they've done one thing. They've done one thing.
What did they do?
They refused to allow the Rothschilds to have a bank in their country.
Wow. Okay, but they're no threat to us. They've never done anything to us. They've never hurt us. They don't threaten to hurt us. In fact, the only reason that they help the people that they help is those are the people that we have our boots on their necks. They help, they're funding the rebels. The Iranians are the ones that would be funding Luke Skywalker. And yet people are saying they're the terrorists. See how it's one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Well, you have to remember, as we've been often saying, that Israel and the U.S. are one and the same, especially when it comes to terrorism, foreign policy, etc. And that's ostensibly what's going on right now. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But this is a very important part of the story and why they were standing and cheering and why they do not want to have any type of conscription as far as voting is concerned. Ada Chavez. New top Democrats are working behind the scenes to stop a vote on the Ro Khanna, Thomas Massie, Iran War Powers resolution, a vote that would force every member of Congress to go on the record over Trump's potential regime change war. And of course, it's these two clowns, which is already been reported.
It's Aipak Shakur.
Aipak Shakur, as a matter of fact, has been funneling through multiple shell corporations pro-Israel lobby money into several of the primary races going on in the Democratic Party right now. That's a fact. So this should not come as
so these two pieces of shit are trying to derail what is constitutionally actually required, because this country has been in violation of our own constitution since 9/11. Like continuously since 9/11. And the fact that every time somebody tries to initiate the War Powers Act, which is what needed to happen every single time that this has come, and they don't. And now these two buffoons are standing in the way. Let's find who their big donors are besides AIPAC.
Colin, can you pull up the article, please? Top Democrats try to stop vote that would put them on record for Trump's Iran war. Democratic leadership and senior aides are working to blunt momentum for a vote on the Khanna Massie Iran War Powers resolution. House Foreign Affairs Committee Democrats have been working behind the scenes to try to prevent a vote from Khanna and Massie regarding the Iran War Powers resolution. A top Democratic HFAC staffer, multiple sources with direct knowledge tell me, deliberately inflated projections of opposition to the bipartisan measure, warning of 20 to 40 Democratic defections as part of a broader effort to dampen momentum and prevent the Iran War Powers vote from advancing. Well, we know two of those Democrats that would be voting against this.
It's unreal. It really is. I feel like we need to do fun math with Jen and Pete again. We got to do fun math with Jen and Pete again, where we have to figure out how many members of Congress have read the Constitution. You know what I mean? And it's very few.
Khanna and Massie had initially planned to force a vote on the resolution this week. Hey, force the vote. Where have we heard that one before? But Democratic leadership, just like with Medicare for All, is now saying they expect the vote to be delayed until next week or even later. And by later, they mean forever. The postponement comes as the Trump administration accelerates preparations for unauthorized military action, overseeing the largest U.S. military buildup in the region in years. Khanna and Massie argue that Congress must weigh in before, not after, the U.S. pulled into another regime change war in the Middle East, is pulled into. Their resolution would require explicit congressional authorization for any military action against Iran, a vote that could become one of the most consequential foreign policy decisions in recent congressional history. A senior Democratic congressional staffer told me it's pretty clear. Democratic leadership is working to delay or potentially sideline the vote on the Khanna-Massie War Powers resolution. If you've been around the Hill, this is a familiar playbook. Of course it is. Because they're all psychopathic warmongers and they only care about their career. They don't care about how many people have to die. That's all that matters. That's all it's ever mattered.
Yeah. Alex Collins, fine. He's doing fine. He's here. He's all good.
But I would ask you, even if we were to get this on the record, would that change their behavior at all? No.
No. But what's going to happen? I mean, I feel like I'm watching a train wreck in slow-mo. Because every military expert that you could find talking about this, and it has nothing to do with partisan politics. It's irrelevant. I've seen people that worked for Republican administrations saying the same thing, that in every simulation our military has done in a war situation, in a simulation with Iran, every single one, we lose. The outcome is bad every single time. And we achieve no strategic objectives. And that has been the same outcome. They've been playing that. If Larry Wilkerson has spoken about this multiple times, that he spoke with the gentleman who started running those exercises back in the day, and he ran into him recently. And the gentleman said, yeah, it's only gotten worse. So, I mean, they know that. Again, why do I know this? Does it not scare anybody that I know this and the people in charge don't seem to know this? It scares me. It scares the shit out of me.
Well, it's not, again, this is not something where I think we even have to question whether or not the people in power actually know. They play dumb because they're playing dumb to the average American who doesn't know any better and doesn't pay attention the way that they probably should. We can make the argument that they don't have time. Now, everybody could have time. They should make time. But there is still something to be said for people that are heavily indoctrinated, and we know that a substantial portion of this country is, especially when it comes to this. Now, one would ask themselves, why are we in this position? Why are we here? It's pretty obvious why we're here. So we have to, again, reference Mike Huckabee.
You have to admit you like it.
It's good graphic.
This is the only problem with this. So yesterday, Rachel and I were in the hardware, the True Value, I think one of the hardware stores where they have chicks now this time of year. Yeah. And we were, and we got to see the little chicks and all that stuff. And so when I see that, I kind of feel like it's mean about chickens. Cause like chickens, I think actually have a lot more integrity than somebody like Huckabee. You know what I mean? Like they would reject him.
Well, if you want to understand who we're going to war for and on behalf of whom and who really calls balls and strikes, here's it.
Spent 2 days here now, and almost everyone we've met with across the spectrum within the Jewish community, that's where we've been meeting, none of them have expressed any fear about going into bomb shelters or ballistic missiles from Iran. Every one of them universally has said to us, you must be excited to be here. You're going to have a front row seat to the miracles that are about to happen.
The miracles that are about to happen. This is Rabbi Goldberg. He's Jewish, if you didn't know. He is just one of many within the pro-Israel lobby that are the ones that are truly calling the shots. We're not joking when we say that this is the United States of Israel. That's what this is. And that's who this man is here. And do you think for 1 second that Rabbi Goldberg is loyal to the United States? Of course not. That doesn't matter because we have been captured. Our government is captured by these satanic, psychopathic animals. And they are animals. In case you didn't notice from the clip we put out that has been heavily suppressed, by the way, Jen, the clip that we did regarding the burning of the animals.
That did well. That did well.
Well, hold on a minute. It only did well to an extent. It's gotten well over what is that? Why did I just have a whole bunch of balloons go up?
I have no idea.
Did you see that shit?
Yeah, I saw it.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. I thought you had balloons at your house.
Oh,
I thought that was weird because you're not a balloon kind of guy.
I'm looking around. I don't see them. I'm not hallucinating. What the hell did you smoke this evening?
You saw it. What are you asking me what I smoked?
What I'm saying. Back to what I was saying. What the fuck was I saying? I got to get back on the. It's not my birthday.
And it wasn't my fault. You can't even blame me.
All right.
Here's what'll be scary, Peter. This will be what's scary is that when you go back to do the clip, it won't be there.
Yeah, probably not. So when you think about everything that we saw the other day, and we're thinking about what we saw regarding the cats and the dogs, and there's like 1,000 comments. There's, I don't know if it's like 1,300 likes, and it's at like 7,000 views. Now, one would say that that's a decent number, but let me tell you, when you have that much activity, that much commentary, that's usually a sign that this is going to do very well. So it's been completely stunted. And
what about the ones right before that where we had several getting thousands of views and then one gets a few hundred?
Correct. Yeah, no, that's just, again, this is
and it's the one where we spoke about Huckabee.
Correct. And so we're speaking about Huckabee now, and I'm sure this will happen again. But the point is, look at Huckabee's body language. Look at his disposition. He's not in control. That rabbi's in control. That's who calls the shots.
There's a reason we call him Huckabee. If he were in control, then he would, by definition, not be a cuck. Now, would he?
That's true.
And you speak about the resilience of the Israeli people and what they've been through for 2 years. They're not.
What have the Israeli people been through for 2 years? What have they been through?
In and out of bomb shelters for those who have them, but they only let the Ashkenazi Jews in the bomb shelters.
Emotionally, they don't feel safe. And of course, our Irish brethren understands. What have the Israelis been through for the past 2 years?
It's been scary for people that live there and for people that are stuck there and don't agree with what's going on. I feel for them.
Well, I feel for the very few portion of the population.
Correct.
You pointed out that it's an overwhelming majority that agree with Netanyahu's government. This is not a mistake.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I'm saying there's only a few people. The people that I feel the worst for are the Palestinians that live in 48 that are inside, and then, and then all the other Palestinians. But otherwise, if there were no Palestinians in the 48, I would give a lot less of a crap about what goes on in there.
In fear, at least those who we've met with across the spectrum have all expressed this faith and almost, I don't want to describe excitement, but they've had a front row seat to miracles for 2 years, and they feel like they're about to see the next chapter of it. And they ask you, aren't you excited to be here for it? You must feel so grateful. You're going to see the redemption come before you. Is that your experience too with the way that Israelis are approaching this potential of having to be involved? Even as we sit here right now, we don't. I'm sure you would have canceled if there were greater concern. That gives us a little comfort in the moment, at least. But in this country, you have to know your whereabouts all the time. Where's the closest shelter? When might a siren go off? Is that part of the consciousness, your experience, even as you're approaching these coming hours or days or whatever might happen next?
It's always amazing to me that Israelis don't have this fear of what could happen. They don't curl up in a fetal position and crawl up under their bed and refuse to get out and go.
Yeah, they've got shelters. Well, yes, and I saw somebody in there asking me if it was really for the white Jews. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. In fact, there are a lot of fights that break out, and there is a very classist system there as to who has access to those shelters. But this is just bullshit. Yeah, they get to sit there comfortably. They're not scared. Yeah, whatever.
Let's see how they act. Let's see what they do when they no longer have the U.S. Treasury at their disposal. But then again, the Hannibal Directive will be executed if the U.S. ever decided to pull out. I mean, to me, that's what it really comes down to. It's basically mass suicide. It's like a suicide pact. If Israel's going to fall, then they're going to try to drag us with them. And that's essentially how this
It's
works.
not. I don't think it's going to work. I really
I
don't.
don't think it's going to work either. I think it's just a matter of time. Now, if it happened right now, maybe.
No, Huckabee is not Jewish. He's a Christian evangelical Zio.
For Israel.
Go anywhere each day. They live their lives. They live it to the fullest. I was here September of 24. I was here to tape some television footage for my television show. And I was having lunch in Tel Aviv with a friend of mine, and all of a sudden the Iron Dome, the siren goes off, and the Iron Dome intercepts a rocket from Gaza right above our heads. You can hear it and see it. Everybody goes to the shelter. I was amazed. Nobody was rushing. Nobody was pushing or shoving, but everyone methodically, no one ignored it, but everyone went down, got in the shelter, which was in the basement of the restaurant, stood there, chatted. When the all clear came, everybody just methodically got up and went back and finished their now cold lunch. And it was almost...
He's not as funny as he thinks he is.
I find him so gross. I'm so, yeah.
He's a smug son of a bitch.
And I was just thinking, had this happened in America? I mean, people would have been screaming and yelling and, calling, I don't think I'm going to make it. And all of these moments, it would have been totally different. It is.
So basically, you need to insult Americans as well while you suck off the Israelis.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
This is where we are.
That tracks.
It's amazing to see, again, that goes to the resilience of the people here.
Yes. It's the Israelis that are so resilient. That's exactly right. It's
don't feel safe.
The Israelis are so resilient, not the people that are being genocided and holocausted and are still clinging to their land. No, the Israelis are resilient.
Their
right?
land? It's not their
You mean
land.
the Israelis are so resilient? You mean like the more than 1 million that have left and are not going back? Yeah, they're so resilient.
Little Israel, South Florida.
Say that I'm excited about the whole process. I told the president when I was back with he and the prime minister for the meetings 2 weeks ago, I said, Mr. President, I hope that some peace agreement can be made. I'm not optimistic that it can or will, but I would love to see that happen simply because you're going to be 6,000 miles from this and I'll be in the bullseye. So Abraham Lincoln once said when he was run out of town on a rail, if it weren't for the honor of it, I'd just soon pass. And I think to a large degree, it's not something I would welcome, look forward to, but if it happens, we're here for the duration.
The level of delusion, it's similar to that Trump, sort of displays. It's this, they really live in a very delusional little world, and the rest of the world's not in there with them is the thing.
No, but then they are still in control of the levers of power, and you have to ask yourself, how long is that going to last? And there are people who are still caught up in this idea, well, if the Democrats just got back into power in November, there will be hell to pay. Will there be? And even if there was, they're all guilty. It's just to what extent of guilt that they are involved in.
I'm just curious what people think is going to happen. Let's say hypothetically that the Democrats sweep the midterms. Let's just say that happens. So what does that mean? What do people think is going to happen? Do you think what do you think that's going to mean? At best, all it will do is give the Democrats 2 years to fuck up so gigantically that it's another easy win for the GOP in 28.
Which they will.
That's all that's going to happen. And they will not achieve a single thing, because as soon as they are in a majority, they'll stop giving a shit about all of these things they seem to care so much about right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think in the end, the more we do this, the more we get the word out there about what's really going on, about focusing in on the stories that actually matter. And I'm going to address on Saturday, Tyler Oliveira's story about what's going on in Lakewood, New Jersey. And again, that's where I'm from. I'm from that. I'm not from Lakewood, but I'm from Monmouth County, New Jersey, which is just north of Ocean County. And I can speak very well to Lakewood. I know the community pretty well. look, they have a substantial control over our country right now. It doesn't mean it's going to last, but you also have to remember that when you start losing control, you start seeing them flex their muscles for all they're worth, because that's all they have now. Before, they didn't have to do this. Now they're in a situation where they have to defend their positions at all times. And I think you mentioned that this is also one of those moments where if Israel is ever going to have a chance to get at Iran, this is it. Like, this is their best shot. So unless they do it now, they are never going to be able to do it.
Yeah, that's what they think. I mean, but it's not going to matter. And I think at the end of the day, they're going to do what they're going to do. I do feel bad for people serving in our military that are going to be the sacrificial lambs in the false flag that's impending. And that's really unfortunate for the people of that. But
we're going to cover that at the end of the show this evening. You're going to want to stick
right. But I mean, I feel bad for those people. I do too. But when they are sacrificed and when the false flag happens, and whether or not it actually was Iran, whether they were responding to something we did first, but of course, nobody knows that part of it, or whether it's us doing it to ourselves or the Israelis doing it to us and us blaming around, however it goes, they will not be able to manufacture the level of consent or any level of consent that they've been able to do in the past. So even when that false flag happens, and even it is not going to have the effect that they think it's going to have, in that they're hoping that that'll inspire people to enlist, like what happened after 9/11. It won't. It will not create the same level of consent. And so when that happens, they're going to just be stuck, because the end of the day, like I've said, the only way they can achieve any strategic objectives in Iran, the only way, is with troops on the ground. And the only way they're going to be able to do that for our troops is to have a draft. So this is what they're going to do, everything they can to avoid that.
Yes. And I will also say that for those of you, especially those who are young and didn't truly live through the post 9/11 first term of George W. Bush, the energy is so different now compared to what it was then. Like, to actually speak out against war in Iraq was almost a revolutionary move within itself at the time, especially in 2002, 2003.
I remember it well. And I was against it then because I knew it was bullshit then. And now a lot more people do know that. You got my message in the chat, yes?
Now you bring it full circle to where we are today. And what you really have is a situation where you really have to have a set of balls on you to suggest that we should support a war in Iran. Like, you really do. But
that's
then again,
why they're so they don't. Well, that's why we know that there's a false flag coming. We know it's going to happen.
But then
and
again,
it is very unfortunate.
But then again, who are the only people truly encouraging war in Iran?
A handful of neocons, war hawks, and Zios.
That's it. That's all there is.
And yes, and it is not. But that's why they have to do something, because they think they're going to be able to do that same 9/11 playbook. And it's not going to work. It's not going to work, even if it is Iran that hits us in a response, because Iran's not going to strike us first. They won't. They don't play that.
Which is why you have to be weary of a false flag.
Exactly.
It is already being talked about that Israel is going to strike Iran. Call it a false flag, because what they're going to make it. Well, actually, no. You know what I think is going to happen?
No, they're going to.
Israel's going to attack themselves, say Iran did it, and that's how it's going to happen.
No, somebody's going to attack one of our aircraft carriers, blame Iran, and we're still not going to buy their shit.
Hope not.
So do you want to quickly do the super chat before we introduce our guest? Okay.
So if you guys are so inclined, and we hope that you are, please consider going to patreon.com/revolutionary change. Remember, we are trying to start a chat community there, so you do not have to be a paying member, but for as little as $5 a month, you can become a financial supporter of our small but mighty, yet still growing, despite all the suppression, channel. For those that are here so far this evening that have contributed, let's give a big shout out to Comida Skomidas.
Comidas. No, it's just Comidas.
Thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. We really appreciate it. Miley's channel, thank you for the £5. Great to see you, my friend. And again with the £5. So overall, £10. We're worth £10 sterling, Jen, which is worth more than a $5. I think the pound sterling's got us by like 70 cents or something.
I don't remember. When I was there, I feel like everything now there is so like cashless that I don't think I was even remotely paying attention to the currency rates.
Fair point. A big, huge thank you to Dark Matter Zombies with the $100 contribution. Iran invented algebra. Persia invented a lot of shit.
Exactly. Like again, this is one of those things.
Jealousy. It's jealousy. And you know what? Isn't Persia like a 6,000 or 7,000 year old culture? Whereas Israel is just a made up thing.
I love it. Don't F with the people who invented algebra. We are all Palestinian. When Palestine is free, we will all be free. Absolutely. Nobody is free until we're all free. Everywhere. That's just how this works.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And don't mess with the people that invented algebra. I agree.
Alex Got Mittens with the $5. I thank you for your work. Got Mittens. May God be with us.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Is that Latin? Is that what that is? Or is it like, okay.
Citizen Pendejo with the 50 pesos. Thanks to Zio's unforced errors. Huckabee, fine, loony loomer. We are so close to forcing Trump to allow foreign outlets in Gaza. Pat and Lila will discuss it.
Okay, guys. So after us tonight, go over to Punch Up and let's get in on that. I'll be over there. We'll hang. We'll chat.
And Alex Got Mittens with the $2. I love you, Jen and Peter. We love you.
We love you too. And I appreciate that you're here and that you have a very different perspective and that you're very respectful of what we say here. I appreciate that.
100%. So, Jen, the floor is yours.
Okay. So, this has come up for us a few times in the past few years where something will come up and I'll think to myself, like, I really wish we had a First People person to talk to, okay? Like a Turtle Island First People person. Because at the end of the day, we really don't. We've had a couple of shows where we've covered different issues that affect Indigenous tribes, but not really and not enough. And so I was just scrolling around on Columbus Day. But, and I came across an IG video of our guest. And so I'm going to play that and you guys can see it. And she tells you all the cool stuff that she does, and then we'll bring her in.
What tribe you repping?
Narragansett, baby. Narragansett,
Resi. What tribe you representing?
All day.
I saw this video on my For You page and I was really disappointed when I opened the comments and saw things like this. It is always abundantly clear to me that our education system did a rather terrible job at educating folks about the reality of Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island, so I'm going to give you all a quick lesson today, and I hope you'll keep learning beyond this video. Now, many, if not all, of the people in that video are from Eastern or Northeastern tribes, which were some of the first communities to be contacted by Europeans. And that video was filmed at Skametsin, which is hosted by the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation in Connecticut. The Pequot first experienced European contact in the early 1600s. So let's think about that for a second. Communities like the Pequot have endured nearly 500 years of colonial violence. That's forced assimilation, land theft, erasure, genocide, and yet they're still here. Despite what your history books have told you, they are still here. They're still proudly Indigenous, they're still carrying their traditions and culture forward, and you want to come online and call them a pretendian? You want to tell them that they are not really Native? Who exactly gave you that authority? To try to delegitimize or discredit the indigeneity of Northeastern nations, like the Pequot, the Wampanoag, the Narragansett, and so many others, is to try and erase 500 centuries of survival, resistance, and persistence. Indigenous peoples are still here all across Turtle Island, and we come in all shades due to our complex histories. So, before you question someone's identity, take a moment to learn. Educate yourself by reading and listening to Indigenous peoples from the East Coast and the Northeast, And remember that our existence does not require your validation.
I love that so much. So Kiara Tanta-Quidgeon, I think I said it right. Welcome. Welcome to Revolutionary Change.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you. I think it was better for me to allow you to give that little clip, because otherwise we would have to be repeating a history lesson now. Like, we would have to be explaining to the people, because, and I had told you this when we spoke. So you're Mohegan, is that correct? You're with the Mohegan. Okay. So I'd heard that name. I'd heard name Mohegan. Like, I'd heard that, but not in a sense of where I remember seeing actual people in my lifetime in any sort of representative fashion, right? So the idea of, and it's absurd now that I think about how unbelievably stupid I sound, but the Northeastern Indians have been, I never, it's weird. I always think, you think Cherokee, Navajo, you think all that, and you never think of the people that were the first people.
Well, when I lived in New Jersey, the commercials for Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun never really got into what the land in Connecticut actually was about. So here's another history lesson for most people who don't understand that indigenous people were very prominent in the New England region.
Yeah.
That's another thing that most people don't know.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what you do. I know that you're very involved with the youth and mental health stuff. And so talk a little bit about what you do, because I know that it's based on a big need, and what you were seeing was a big need in your community.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, Kutamtum Tamawish, I thank you for having me and for welcoming me. I'm very excited to be here with you all and to share a little bit about what I do and how I got here. I, like you said, am Mohegan. I was born and raised on kind of the lands right outside of the Mohegan Reservation. So still Mohegan land, ancestrally, but it wasn't technically the reservation. I grew up in Norwich, Connecticut, down in southeastern Connecticut. I was really closely connected to my community, despite not really being raised in a tribal household. I was raised by my mom, who's a single mom who is of mixed settler descent. And my dad, who is the tribal member, really wasn't a part of my life growing up, but I was very lucky, and this is not a case that is, true for a lot of folks, but I was really lucky in that my mom really wanted me to stay connected to my tribe and really went out of her way to, bring me to the res so that I could spend weekends with my great-grandparents. I was really lucky to grow up with all of my great-grandparents alive. I still have a great-grandparent today who I'm very close to and who is a really big part of why I am the proud Mohegan woman I am today. So being really close to my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my aunties, my cousins, all the people on the reservation really shaped kind of who I am as a person in terms of being really interested in the culture. I'm a dancer. I grew up going to a summer camp for tribal youth where we really learned a lot about the history and the culture, and my interest in that was sparked in that way, but also my personal experiences of being someone who grew up, really closely connected to the reservation and was seeing a lot of the health issues that were impacting not only the community at large, but my close family members. In particular, diabetes is a big issue that we face in our community and is really close to home for me and my family, as well as substance use and other mental health issues. And so I knew from a very young age that I wanted to pursue a health career. I didn't really know what that meant or what the bounds of that were. I kind of thought, okay, I got to go to med school. That's the only option for me. That's the only way I can really truly give back the way I want to. So that was the path I set on, and very quickly learned that a really rigorous scientific education is not necessarily what I was looking for. All those courses like organic chemistry and biology weren't getting to the root causes of the health problems that I was seeing in my community. I knew that there was a really long history of, colonization. I knew that our tribe had a really unique history, was starting to learn and understand that, the diversity that existed across Indian country and these experiences. And was starting to realize there is more to this. It must be connected to the history of it all, and there's these social issues too that I'm seeing. So it wasn't until I took a medical sociology class in my undergrad that I was like, wait a minute, I kind of like everything, I took a step back and was seeing how these social forces were impacting our health and well-being. I was seeing the kind of phenomena that I was experiencing in my community represented in a textbook for the first time. And so that was really great. But I was also, starting to notice these gaps of like, well, we're talking about these issues that I'm starting to see in my community, but we're not talking about them in the context of my community. If we are talking about them, about Native Americans, like you said, we're talking about it out west or in the Southwest. And there's very, very little work being done in terms of academic research in the Northeast. And so it was really hard continuing education once I realized like, okay, I maybe want to go more of a public health route so that I can integrate these social sciences into my studies and really get to these like systemic and social root causes of the problems that I was seeing. But I also was starting to see that it was a little bit hard to do that in the specific context of my community because there was so little out there. So that is what kind of motivated me to move forward with the path of research. And that's what I do now. So I am a researcher, writer, and youth advocate, as you said. As a researcher, I work for Harvard University. I'm a research assistant. I also am a research collaborator or a consultant with the Johns Hopkins Center for Indigenous Youth, where I work on a youth council development for research. And I am also the founder, president, and chief executive officer of the Sunrise Healing Community, which is a nonprofit that I established to kind of get at a lot of the issues that I was seeing around health and well-being. Which was this more cultural aspect. So like I said before, and I'm rambling a little bit, I tend to do this.
No, it's okay. I mean, I just don't think people know, there's so much that we don't know.
There's so much background, yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of like the key issues that you're really seeing with the young people, because that's, the youth people, I think, is the key thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what was very interesting to me is as I was going throughout school, it wasn't really from my schoolwork or my even research that I was seeing this. It was from my conversations with other Native folks that I was seeing that a lot of the problems that I was experiencing in my community were replicated or mirrored in other communities. And despite the extreme diversity that exists across, there are 500 plus federally recognized tribes, even more state recognized and unrecognized tribes. Thousands of these groups with all of these different experiences and different cultures, yet we do share something similar in that we are all impacted by colonization in a similar way, and that has had an impact on our health and well-being. And once I saw that, I started to realize, this is definitely a career path, I wanted to go down. But it is a similar issue with mental health specifically. We see a lot of issues with substance use, and it's really interesting from a public health standpoint. My background is in education is in public health. I went to Columbia Mailman School of Public Health for my MPH, and all of the data that you read about like natives, specifically around substance use, when it says, natives have high rates of substance use or PTSD or suicide or whatever it may be, it's very deficit based in the way that they talk about it. And they'll often blame it on Indigenous people or blame it on Indigenous culture. And that is a lot of what I was seeing. And for me, from my experiences, I actually knew that it was the opposite of that. I have never been happier or healthier than when I am at home in community, engaging in my culture. Yes, there is a lot of hardships on our reservations, and there are a lot of things to deal with, like these health issues I brought up. But at the same time, when we are engaged with our culture, when we're dancing, when we're making beadwork, we are the most grounded and balanced and able to really facilitate kind of our health and well-being a little bit better. So that was what kind of motivated me to create the Sunrise Healing Community. Is with our mission is to foster healing through cultural connectedness. So we focus on culture as a social determinant of health, whereas so much of public health research has looked at culture as a cause of health disparities. Right. We think, a certain group has poor health because they're different than the dominant culture. But really, it's because their culture has been stripped away from them over years of, federal policy, residential school, whatever it may be. And that impact of that cultural erosion is what's causing these health disparities that we're seeing. And in fact, reconnecting people to culture is actually what's going to better our health and well-being rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I agree. Peter, you want to talk about the youth?
I'm sorry?
You want to talk about the youth, the mental health of the youth?
No, it's actually not what I was going to say. being a native, I am curious because I am clearly the white Anglo-Saxon male. The biggest issue I have with white culture is that it's wasteful.
And we have many. But
and the whole concept of just not giving a shit about the environment is something that absolutely drives me insane. And I'm not talking about anybody who either believes or doesn't believe in the concept of climate change. I'm talking about people that throw shit on the ground like it's acceptable practice. And the one thing I've always learned from Native culture, even from the time that we did the Indians and Pilgrims when we were in kindergarten, and I was an Indian, not a pilgrim.
Oh my God.
I thought it was actually very telling how what you learn, even as an American watching a film like Dances with Wolves, is that, which to me is Kevin Costner's best film, because what he
for the love of God.
is he really gets into the fact that white culture is extremely not just genocidal and manifest destiny, but there is something to be said, particularly the scene where they show all of the buffalo have been killed, but they didn't kill them for all of the reasons that a native would kill them for, which is for the food, for the bones, for the hide, for everything. To me, that was the first great awakening I had about this sort of this disillusionment about what it means to actually value the earth, value the air, value the water. What has that experience been for you, and do you see any improvement that's been happening as we kind of evolve as a species right now, in lieu of everything that's going on in the Middle East and sort of the dying of the American empire as it's happening in real time?
Yeah, for me, I know that was something that was very much instilled in me growing up. It was kind of, the norm, just in the way that we even talk about the land. Growing up, like I said, I went to a summer camp for tribal youth, which is always something to kind of giggle and laugh about, but it really is truly where so much of these formative learning experiences happened for me, and so much of that land-based knowledge. We spent the entire summer on the reservation. We'd go down to Fort Shantok, which is the same land that we had been on since we became an independent nation. We were previously members of the Pequot tribe, which are Foxwoods that you mentioned earlier. And when we became our own nation, Fort Shantok is where we settled. So, our earliest homelands on the area of Connecticut where we are is where I was able to grow up and spend so much time and learn about this, like you mentioned, this reciprocal relationship with Mother Earth. It isn't just, the earth isn't something that we can use and just take advantage of. It's also something that in return for what we use it for, we kind of give back to and take care of it, just like we would a human relative. And on the wastefulness, it is really you see it from the idea of the environment, people saying drill, baby, drill. You see that wastefulness. And then you see it, like you said, with things like genocides and the just absolute senseless taking of lives across the world. This complete lack of value in things, whether it be a big thing like a life or a small thing like a plant or a tree, small being relative to whoever we're talking about and what they value. So I think I agree with a lot of what you said there, and a lot of how I feel about it is very rooted in this, how I grew up, and just this idea of it being a reciprocal relationship, and this idea, and that's also just how I grew up in general. Anyone or anything that gives you something, you give back in return. I grew up again on this teaching of balance. One of the main, this is a little bit funny, but a way that we convey, I think, ideas a lot is through stories. And a story that I learned is that there were the little people who are the Makiawisug, and then there are giants in our stories. We have both of those things. And the woodland little people had a leader named Granny Squannet, and she was married to the leader of the giants, Moshup, and that represented balance. And that is something that I have carried with me throughout my whole life. And so we can't have, balance within ourselves if the earth is imbalanced, and the earth unfortunately has been imbalanced for a very, very long time, since 1492 or whatever, however far you want to go back and see the source of that. But I do think in terms of improvement, it's a little bit hard right now. And with this current administration, I think I catch myself feeling very heavy and very worried. And there's this thing, we call it in public health, called climate anxiety, that I think a lot of youth in particular are really grappling with, this impending doom, this feeling of what's even the point of doing things?
Listen, you're really wrong. We're doing a really great job right now. Believe me, you're totally.
I will say that voice is impressive, although it is mildly triggering in the back of my head. But no, it's this idea of these youth having where are we to go from here? Like,
no, I mean, honestly, I would much rather have Trump in there than somebody like Obama, because Obama just glosses over it. It's the same shit. It's happening both ways.
Yeah, it's just a different presentation.
Yeah,
it's a
you'd rather
package.
have-
The Democrats buy you dinner before they, R-word you.
in the ass.
You know what I'm saying? They
Sorry to
treat
be
you to
graphic,
dinner.
but it's the truth.
No, and it's true. And I think it all comes down to this. It's like, it's not left versus right. It's top versus bottom. And like, the more that you go top and the more money centered you are, the less focused you are on things on the bottom, like literally what's beneath your feet, like the ground. And it's so easy to not care about the generations ahead of you that aren't going to, like, you're not going to be there for them, for what they're going to endure. But for us, it's like, we, again, like as Indigenous people, as a Mohegan person, the teachings that I grew up with was like, we do everything that we do in honor of the 13 generations that came before us, for the 13 generations that exist today, and for the 13 generations that are to come. And that cycle repeats itself. And I think in losing those teachings, which, a lot of those teachings were lost across tribes because of colonization, and then just this over dominance of this very individualistic, capitalistic, and I don't give a fuck about I don't know if I want to say, sorry.
No, you can curse. Oh yeah, by all means.
But I don't give an F about the environment kind of mindset has really, taken away the value of these teachings that sustained this land for so long and continue to sustain it. I think it's like, what, Indigenous people maintain 80% of the world's biodiversity or something like that. So yeah,
I don't know, but
really,
I would believe that.
Yeah, so I will say, like, I do feel hopeful amidst all of this sad stuff, because I do see so many of our young people returning to those teachings and sharing them, not only within our Native communities, but outside more. I think that's another thing we've really struggled with Native communities, is being open in this, post-apocalyptic era for us. Like, we survived genocide and have come on the other end of it. And to then now feel comfortable sharing the culture and history and everything that they tried to erase and take away from us has been a really hard thing to do. But we do have a lot of like really brave, especially young people, who are willing to share these teachings and to kind of revitalize the stories that have been able to kind of empower us to give back to Mother Earth in the way that we need to be in order to get us back on track. Although we can debate on whether or not. Yes, we can debate about that too.
One of the things that we have covered a lot here, and this is not just something that affects Indigenous communities, but a lot of vulnerable communities, is the climate problem, but not in the nature way, in the we're being poisoned by companies kind of way. So whether it's train derailments and poisonings or pipelines or whatever it is, we know that affects our most vulnerable communities first. Like, we know if Beverly Hills had a water toxicity problem, that shit would be shut down immediately, right? But yet Flint, Michigan doesn't have clean water and hasn't had clean water since 2014. And I feel like this is one of those things where we can really see that it is a top-bottom thing, and where all the vulnerable communities are really in the same boat in terms of how they're abused environmentally.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, as far as the kids you work with, like, what's their knowledge of what is going on environmentally for them? Because this shit, it's like, these kids are born with plastic in them. Seriously, all these kids are born, all of them. They're all born with plastic. We all are now.
It's so bad. I think I have a little bit of like a skewed view on on it, because I do work in public health, and so many of the youth I end up working with are also like youth who are kind of oriented towards public health and are a little bit more aware because of that. Okay. I will say I notice when I'm with people who are not public health people, specifically youth, and this is no fault to them, this actually makes sense as like a coping mechanism. If I like bring something up, because I notice as a public health person, I tend to bring up environmental toxins and other things like really casually. It's very jarring for them, and they're like, I don't want to hear about that. This is a random example, but I was talking about the arsenic in tampons. I just like casually brought that up because, that's casual conversation for a public health person. I was doing a like archaeology program when I brought that up. It's apparently not casual conversation for archaeologists. And they were all like, we don't want to hear about that. Like blissful ignorance. So I think it's this in between of like, there really are people on the side of it who are very, very aware of what's going on, who are, really committed to, as they get older, kind of returning as much as they can to traditional lifestyles. Like for the Indigenous youth I've met, being like, I want to live off the land and do what I can to kind of return back to that. But then you also have people who are more like, what, it doesn't kill me right now, it just makes me stronger, and what, like, I just have to survive until the end of my days. And so it's really hard, like this line between like really stark advocacy and really wanting to like fight for these things and being aware of these things, and then also just like kind of like nihilism that has happened as a result of these things.
That's the problem that I see for these kids in terms of the mental health. That's more what I was foreseeing as being, it's hard. I mean, my kids who are young, who, you know, have privilege, and yet they can see where the economy is and where things are going, and how their opportunities to exist and thrive are getting smaller by the minute. And I know it's just exponentially harder in vulnerable communities. So it's just, and I mean, the Native communities there have been so much defeatism. There's been a lot of high, you have domestic violence rates. Like there's a lot of stuff in communities that are very, very traumatized. And that's what I would just think it's so hard for these kids to have any sort of optimism.
Yeah, and it's so hard, I'm sure, across context, not only with Indigenous communities, but like you said, with other marginalized and underserved communities, with the lack of role models. And it's not because they're not there, but like the lack of, especially now in this administration, like seeing people who have worked, you know, hard from your community being elevated at this level. We're now seeing people who are not qualified for things across the board being elevated in positions of the government. We're seeing, you know, just a range of things happening that it can be really discouraging for someone who, you know, wanted to like work hard and get out of the res and then whatever context you're in, you know, and just, yeah. So
what do you think? I mean, like, what do you want people to know that they don't know about not just your tribe, but just in general? Because like, you know, I think there's just, most people do not have interactions with First Peoples often enough. And they certainly don't understand. And one of the things that I love the most about anything, and pretty much not all things Indigenous, but this I kind of find cross-continent in terms of Indigenous groups, there is a much better balance between masculine and feminine. There is a much better understanding and fluidness. And even, just all of it that white people and white culture has completely thrown away. And not just, just in so many ways, but the masculine feminine thing is very obvious to me, as in terms of a very stark difference between Native people and, you know, white people.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the idea, like our two-spirit identities have been, you know, traditional. It's documented that there have been tribes across the nation where a traditional like man-woman relationship wasn't traditional in our communities. It was very common. Polygamy was very common. It was very common to have a man and a wife, you know, for the sake of making children, and then for the wife to have a wife or multiple wives of their own. All of these things that we have kind of been, you know, indoctrined to believe are the norm of Euro-American society are, again, not traditional to this land that we're on. I'd say there's a lot, though, that I want everyone to know. One thing in particular kind of goes back to the video you shared in the beginning is one, Indigenous people are still here, but it's not that we're just still here, it's that we're still here everywhere. I see more and more videos of it coming up where like people are surprised that they're like, when they find out about the Sami people of Norway, they were like, wait, there's Indigenous people in Norway? It's like, yeah, there were people in this land before it was colonized. So keeping in mind in the context of the US that means that there are Indigenous people of the Northeast. The amount of people that I encounter that are like, no, all the natives of the Northeast were wiped out. Like all the natives now were pushed into, like, everyone believes that every native went on the Trail of Tears and made their way out to the West. And it's really hard to undo that learning of like, well, like, I get that you learned that in a literal school. And so trying to explain to you that your school was not right and kind of purposely lied to you is a really hard thing to do. And then another thing that I experience a lot as a mixed Native person, like I don't present as Native. I either get the comment of like, well, you can't be Native because you have pale skin, or I get the people like squinting and being like, oh, I can kind of see it. And it's like, both of those are bad reactions. My last name is Tanta-Quidgeon. I am a descendant of Tanta-Quidgeons for a long time, of the Mohegan people. I descend back to Uncas Tanta-Quidgeon. We can have this conversation for a long time. But I think in particular, not just with me, but we're seeing like a really big resurgence of this like anti-Blackness in Indigenous communities, where anyone who is Afro-Indigenous or Afro-Native is being targeted for this like pretendianism war and being told like there's no way you can be native because you're black. And it's like, well, that's not how genetics work. Clearly we need to like have a lesson on how all this stuff works. But it is so embedded in this idea of anti-blackness, and people like me are way more accepted in spaces, even with natives themselves. Like I'm not 100% accepted. I've seen, a few comments on here of people not really believing I am what I'm saying I am.
Don't listen to the trolls. I'll keep them in line. You see that, Alex? You see what happened there now?
But I'm just saying, like, for me, it still is 10 times easier to walk into those spaces and to get a general acceptance than it is for our Black relatives. And I'm seeing so much of it. And it, in part, is because there's this rise, I think mostly on TikTok, but across the internet, of this people believing that Black Americans are like the real indigenous people, and that Native Americans came from Siberia through the land bridge. And there's like this whole argument about that. And so that causes a little bit of friction. But I think at its core, it's rooted in this anti-Blackness and this just lack of understanding of how indigenous communities work, and just quite simply what has how much has happened between when colonization started on the East Coast and now. And so much, intermixing, whether it be with European communities or with, Black communities. And this has changed so much, of the landscape of what Native people look like. We don't all look like Pocahontas. Pocahontas is a terrible representation of indigenous people. It's based on a story of a girl who was 9 years old at the time of the record things that are being accounted in the movie. So just keeping in mind,
it was made into a Disney movie, so that makes it okay.
And there was a lot of merchandise, and I did like the talking tree.
It's like that one song is actually really good. Like I think I won't speak for everyone, but the natives that I know universally do love Colors of the Wind.
Okay. So I was going to say, okay. So that's not offensive, right? Because the tree, I'm telling you, the tree was special.
Yes, I will say, I think that's annoying about that movie, and this is like a side note, is that it proved that it could do things right. Like if it would have like actually sat down with Native people and created a movie about Native culture and history, it proved that it could have done that. But of course, instead of doing that, it took a story that was written in some random white guy's diary who actually barely ever even interacted with Pocahontas, and that's not even her real name.
You look like you could be a First People person. I don't think that you don't like. I mean, yeah, you're definitely fairer, but I think you absolutely could look like.
Yeah, and my tribe is one of, again, we are from southeastern Connecticut. Our first contact with, when I say contact, because I'm used to like using kind of the censored language, our first, attack by colonizers was in 1630s, and my tribe in particular, we did end up deciding to side with the English people at the time because we were worried about getting killed and having to leave, and that is a big reason why we are still on the homelands that we are on. It's a reason why we split from the Pequots. And there's so much history there to grapple with as well, and to think, put yourself into the shoes of the tribe at that time. But like thinking again, that happened in 1630. So everything that has happened between 1630 and now, I admit, like I'm not just like half Native, half white. I'm generationally mixed, and there's so many tribes on the East Coast that again are generationally mixed, and folks will very often try to take the legitimacy away from them because of that.
No, but it's based on distance from the equator, people. So I don't care if you're not close to the equator, you're going to be fairer. Like this is a science. Again, when I'm the person who knows these things, it really
when I show people pictures of my great grandpa, then I'm like, well, just in case you need proof, I'm like, even though it's a really annoying thing to have to do, which I have been in that position, they're like, oh well, he's really light. I'm like, okay, well now we're gonna have to explain,
because they live far from the equator. This is not complicated.
People don't understand why these things are such pointless bullshit conversations, because at the end of the day, we are living in a broken economic system, and people will look for any reason to feel
bigger things.
That's all. That's all it is. And there's also things to be said about people who can be jealous for various reasons about somebody's looks, for better or worse. And on top of everything else, the similarities between the history of the indigenous people of this country and how they've been treated to what is going on right now in Gaza is almost a complete parallel across the board. Like everything that the Israelis represent is a falsehood. It is a false culture. It's not real. It has no history. They all come from their indigenous background is white European. It is not West Asia, Middle East. That doesn't exist. And just like people who say that they are Americans, Well, they're not first Americans. And the people who always typically scream the loudest about how, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, except for the people who actually were here first. There is this whitewashing of history that no one really wants to acknowledge, that I have no problem acknowledging because I am extremely comfortable in my own skin. A lot of people are not comfortable in their skin.
You'd have to be, because it's white. He's white.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm white.
And that's the other thing is I also am, again, white. So I have this privilege associated with that I'm not afraid to, talk out for what I stand for and what I believe in, because I am, again, I'm protected by my proximity to whiteness and presenting as white. And that is not something I'm uncomfortable with doing or unfamiliar with doing.
No, you got to use it.
You on that, Peter.
You know, I wanted to, so a few years back, the Lakota Sioux did this sort of in-service nonviolent resistant training down at Florida International University for a couple of days. And so I went down there and I met them, and it was very cool. It was the whole experience was very cool. And one of the things that I got from that, which has stuck with me ever since, was the idea of lend your privilege. Now, I had always done that, but I never called it that. And that was something that the Sioux said was they were going over like how to be a good relative. Right. And I tell people that's like ally is what we say that. But and the thing was lend your privilege. And you have that capability even within your own people to lend your privilege. And you see that. And that's really cool. I mean, that is basically what I do because I'm white. I'm white. There's no getting around it. Like I'm almost see-through. Seriously.
So I feel like that in the winter. I really need the sun to get back out.
So, but I appreciate that you use that in that capacity and you recognize that. And it's unfortunate that that's the case.
Yeah.
Like nobody should have to lend their privilege because nobody should have that privilege. Like everybody should just be treated how people should be treated. And then you see, like, that's absurd that we even have that, but we do. So that's where we're at. Yeah. So I appreciate it.
Can't thank you enough for coming on this evening. Obviously, if you have any final thoughts about anything that you may be working on and how people can get involved in what you're doing, I would say that is, again.
I told y'all I'm half Irish, half Palestinian. I'm adopting in, I'm converting. I can't be fully Irish. I can't follow up with the day drinking courses like they want me to. So I'm going half Palestinian, half Irish, so I can be temperate.
Well, I'm Irish, but that's all right.
I'm also Irish.
I try to be Irish.
I'm like, at least my white half is mostly Irish. I will say as final words, well, again, thank you so much for having me.
Say that slower, please.
No, I don't even want her to say it slower. I want her to message it back to Rachel phonetically because I'm going to need to read that, but go ahead.
Yes. It's really funny. So our word for that kind of way back when we had an anthropologist come in, our language wasn't traditionally written down. So we had some white guy come in, write down our language, did a terrible job because he just wrote down what he was hearing, shocking. And so for a long time we said tabutni as thank you, which is a lot shorter, a lot easier to say. And then they came in, they worked with a linguist who's actually native and kind of redeveloped our language from the ground up. And it changed to kutamtoptamawish, which is obviously a lot harder. So a lot of like our elders and stuff are like, no, I'm just going to say Tepetni. Like we're just going to stick with it now. But keeping like also with like a F Frank Speck in the back of our head, who's the anthropologist who wrote it all down. But things to like really quickly plug or promo. I don't know if this is like a space for it. But the Sunrise Healing Community, we do a lot of cool work. We're a nonprofit and we are working with my alma mater right now, which is the Quinnipiac University Indigenous Student Union, to create or bring to life the second annual powwow on campus. So it's the Dancing in the Shadow of Sleeping Giant powwow at Quinnipiac University. I know it's a mouthful.
All of your links are in our description.
Beautiful. Yeah. So if you find me on social media, it's on there.
Are you on Upscrolled?
I am not. No. Maybe I should be.
Fine. All of her relevant social media stuff is in our description. And guys, definitely follow her on Instagram. I was so glad I came across you. First of all, you're adorable. You're just like I just like my friend Rachel.
Trying to bring joy into this dark world. Trying to bring joy into it. Yes, please do follow me. I will do my best to follow y'all back. I also try to post often. I'm going to try and post more. I am getting better. It's hard to even just like go on social media nowadays and see everything that's going on in the world.
It's bad, but you need to use it as a tool because you're very good at doing it. And you are a good voice for your people. And that is the thing. And so you can do something that a lot of people can't. It's an opportunity. So that's all I'm saying. Like, I think it's important, even though it kind of sucks.
Yep. Well, again, thank you so much.
Will you come back sometime?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, like we have you on. Can we have you on when it's Columbus Day next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Indigenous Peoples Day. Let's do it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kiara. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Lovely. Just lovely. You can't tell me she wasn't just adorable, like ridiculous.
She's a pretty girl. Everybody in the chat wants to take her home. So, you know.
I had to delete a comment to whoever that perv was in there.
You're always going to get one. But we ask you all, as always, to please consider supporting our channel by smashing that like button if you can. I don't know if everybody was necessarily enamored with her, but a whole bunch of people. I don't understand what that means.
You know what, Peter? I'm going to tell you why. And it happens every time. And this is where we're coming to like this sort of point where we're going to have to make choices about content, because every time we have an interview with someone that I'm really trying to learn something and get educated or whatever, people jump off, because what a lot of people come on here is for pontification and bullshit political gossip stuff. And I get it. And we do that. And that's fun sometimes. But I have noticed as well that whenever we're having a real meaningful, substantive conversation, people leave. So what that tells me is that a whole bunch of people are not interested in that. But here's the thing. I don't care.
I know you don't.
No, I don't, because I started this channel to be educational and to be able to have really interesting discussions and learn from people, not sit here and be a talking head.
You're making it sound like I wasn't interested in the conversation.
No, but when you were questioning why people were leaving. So
I'm saying I understand.
Popular.
No, I think you're getting a little too jumpy about it, because obviously a lot of people jump off. But here's the thing. We are a dumb culture. We're dumb. And we can't, and on top of excuse me, can I have a second, please?
Yes.
This is also part and parcel to the fact that we are also an extremely impatient culture that can't sit still and doesn't want to hear anything that's going to take more than 2 or 3 minutes of a bit to actually learn something. So when you dive into a story, especially about indigenous people that want to talk about the fact that our country is very reflective of the worst of us as it stands today. And again, we're a collapsing empire, which is a big problem. And therein lies the problem. It's not that they don't necessarily want to learn it, but it's just as Kiara was saying when she talks about the fact that, do you know that the over-the-counter retail products that you buy in the store, like what you have to use when you're on your period, actually contains cancerous material that's inside of it?
Peter, I've known that as a woman my entire friggin' life.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that people hear it and they say, oh, I can't hear that. I don't want to hear it. I'd rather be dumb. I'd rather not know. And that attitude is reflective in why this country is, as Pangenesis says, is in the middle of idiocracy. We're staring.
That's why we need to introduce people to other people and let them follow on their own. This is what creates the web. Is so now a bunch of people will go follow her. Like, this is how we build community and revolution. Yes, I know, but I choose to spread messages from people like Kiara and the kind of guests that we have, so that we build the coalition outside of the ignoramus.
Now, I have been saying for the longest time that everyone insists that if they were faced with the Matrix, moment where you have to choose between the red pill and the blue pill, everyone is so convinced in their own mind that they would take the red pill. But in reality, the majority of people would take the blue pill, whether they want to admit it or not. If they were faced with it's like asking somebody, do you want to know if Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior of mankind, or was it just a made up story? And as much as people say that they would want to know the truth, they don't want to know. They don't want to know. Well, I do. I do. But because
I like the Jesus. I'm all about the Jesus.
Don't fuck with the Jesus.
Don't fuck with the Jesus. No, I'm all about the Jesus. I absolutely, you know what I have found? It's the best thing ever since that John Fugelsang and that thing, like, and my sort of revelation as to how to approach this, it's so much easier. And now where I'm living, it's come in handy quite a few times, because When you tell people that you follow the teachings of Christ, that's all you need to say. You don't need to explain anything. They don't. I follow the teachings of Christ. It really shuts people up very quickly because no one's going to criticize that. So it's actually pretty good.
Well, the fact is that if you truly are a follower of Christ and you believe in what his true teaching was, there was one teaching above all others, which is the golden rule: do unto others as you would have done to you. And there are way too many people that claim to follow the scriptures, but they don't actually follow it because in the end, it's not about what you believe. It's about how you live your life in a positive fashion that is reflective on those that maybe don't, or perhaps you don't see them as those that do. And I've noticed, especially with evangelical conservative Christians, that the hypocrisy knows no bounds.
No,
it really doesn't.
I'm amazed at some of the people that I've met here really close. So I'm not, of course, going to mention names, but my Airbnb hosts they're so sweet. They're these really nice people. They live they're on their property. And every week they go and feed unhoused people. They go and feed homeless people. They go and feed hungry people. And so we were just curious, like, do they go with their church? Like whatever. No, they just go. They just go and bring a whole bunch of food and drive around and feed people that are hungry. It's like, and these are very Christian people, and they don't belong to a church because they
understand the hypocrisy between the separation of church and
I'm finding very nice Christian people. Sure. And so I like
That's
it.
why I identify a lot with the libertarian side of conservatism. But like neocon conservatism, which is what dominates so much of political discourse because that's where the money lies, it's all bullshit. And the same is true with neoliberalism. The same is true when it's Spank My Burger, Apoc Shakur, Chucky the Shoom, Washerwoman Schultz. It's all the same bullshit. They're not a representative of who the real people are. And I'll tell you, sometimes you can't judge a book by its cover because sometimes, as much as people think that the Brits are always, sucking up to the Israelis and the Irish are always on the side of the Palestinians, let me assure you that one of the greatest rock and rollers of all time, who in my opinion, most would probably agree that Pink Floyd is one of the truly great rock and roll bands ever. Roger Waters proves that not all stereotypes are true. A Brit outflanks an Irishman, and that Irishman happens to be Bono, who is somebody that I think a lot of Irish today don't really claim anymore and probably haven't for a while. He sat down with Piers Morgan.
It's very unfortunate.
Yep.
Like, to me, how I think about Bono now. It's gross.
Bono, the biggest piece of crap alive. Now, if you've seen South Park, you'd understand.
People, your opinion is so disgusting and so degrading, sticking up for the Zionist entity.
Yes.
What he did a couple of weeks ago, Sphere in Vegas, singing about the Stars of David, was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you justify that? All he was doing was paying a tribute to young music lovers at a music festival who happened to be Jewish. And the Star of David is the emblem of a Jewish person.
You're on your own.
I'm not on my own.
Yes, you are.
Why? I don't understand why you'd be so hateful to Bono.
Yeah. Nice try, Piers.
What?
No, Roger Waters is not Jewish.
I'll tell you what Roger Waters is. He's somebody that I would very much like to get as a guest on this channel, and he happens to be very close with Butch Ware. And when I ran into Butch when I was in California, he said he would very much like to get back on the show as soon as possible. We're working on that. As far as I'm concerned, I think we should have them both on. And I think that would be a great conversation. But as Sable brings up, and a lot of people bring up, this is one of the reasons why when it comes to the British snoot that most people don't like, it's coming from somebody like Piers Morgan, who always acts as this holier than art. What, me? I never said anything so offensive.
Well, it's like that clip you sent me about that woman educating him on caucasity, and he just cannot.
And then he proves caucasity over the course of the entire conversation.
He can't help himself. He just can't.
No.
Why were you so hateful?
It's none of your business.
You said it publicly on TV.
All right. So
It's hardly private, is it?
I was a bit upset. I'm watching a genocide. I wake up in tears every morning.
But people
don't you understand? Don't you get it?
Yes,
Okay. Well,
I understand the strength of your feeling. I don't understand why you seem to have very little feeling for the people who've died on the other side.
We just don't anymore. Because we just don't anymore. And maybe in the beginning, some of us maybe pretended we did just a little bit so as to seem like somewhat, respectful. Now I just don't care anymore. You're right. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about the Israelis. I don't give a fuck what happens to them. I don't care how many of them die. I really don't. I don't care.
And they're going down.
I'm not going to pretend to care.
Going down in a big way. That's the thing. What most people don't seem to fully understand, which is happening right now, is that this truly is the calm before the storm. We're not even there yet. You wait. You just wait.
And no, I don't condemn Hamas. I don't condemn Hamas, not even a little bit. Never did. Not even on October 7th, not on October 8th. Still not now. Don't condemn Hamas. Because if you lock me in a cage, I'm going to blow shit up. I'm going to blow shit up, and I'm going to come hunt you down, and I'm going to come kill you. That's what's going to happen. So why would I condemn people doing exactly what I would do if I were locked in a cage?
Because everybody
I can't. It's just absurd.
This is, again, the embodiment of standing on the pedestal that the Zionists always do, especially when they talk about their safety and their need to feel safe. This is, if you want to talk about true white privilege, that's where it is. It lies in this idea. Again, it's like
they need to always feel comfortable. That they're entitled to comfort.
It's the same thing when you hear somebody say, oh, he's such a well-spoken black person. It's like you don't understand how unbelievably stupid you sound and how unbelievably ignorant and privileged you come off like. In that instance, that's what real privilege is, because they're thinking to themselves, well, we're the better class of people. We are not supposed to be subjected to hard labor and bombs being dropped on our heads and wondering about whether the real indigenous people to West Asia are being affected in any way.
Soon heaven, again, while we do think you're sort of Dr. Shiva, but no, Jews can freely come and go from Ziohel. Palestinians have no passports. Palestinians can't go anywhere. And if the few that can leave, they have to cross over and go out of Jordan. They're not yet allowed to use the airport that's closest to them. But no, Jews are allowed to come and go. The Jews in Israel are not being held hostage. That's not a thing.
Oh, Travers, you will bury us all, my friend. You truly will. bad hombre. All right.
Kind of though, but it's kind of true.
Mr. Waters has more to say.
Because there's a few hundred of them.
Especially music lovers.
Because excuse me, because the state of Israel is, how to get it into your thick head? They're committing genocide.
Yes.
They're killing every single Palestinian. They're going to kill every Palestinian.
Well, they're not going to kill every Palestinian.
Their dream.
Are you sure about that, Piers?
Oh my
God.
God.
Sure about that?
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
that's privilege right on its surface. Well, I understand they're going to kill a lot of them, but they're not going to kill them all. Oh, so what? 10, 15% of them will be left alive?
You know what? And this brings us back to what we were talking about with Kiara. Her people were genocided, and yet they still exist. So this is this concept that's very hard for especially Zios to understand. And that includes someone I know personally who seems to think that it can't be a genocide if they're still here. Okay. But then how come Jewish people get to claim that there was a genocide and a Holocaust? We're still here. I don't, and the natives.
They believe in their ethnic, cultural, religious, and social superiority above all others. And because of the runaway, broken, Western-style capitalist system that we're living under, Piers Morgan, who fully knows the score, has his rich, aristocratic, Zionist, Jewish financiers. They have him by his balls, and he knows it.
He's disgusting. Make this go quickly so I can't stare. I can't look at it.
Has to pretend.
And their leaders have said that is Eretz Israel. Every single bit of was once Palestine.
They're not going to kill every Palestinian, obviously.
Why? Oh, they're not?
No, they're not.
Well, they're trying to.
Well, they're trying to kill every member of Hamas.
Well, what?
I personally believe, as I know you do, that I think they have massively the response has been massively disproportionate. And
You
way
think?
too many Palestinians.
You think?
How does he look? I just don't understand how people still want to look at it from that perspective. Well, it was really unfortunate what happened on October 7th, but
Don't do that voice. It makes him sound better than he does. Just don't.
proportionate. It's proportionate. It's not proportionate. I mean, the audacity to suggest proportionality is even something to be discussing here is what's funny. It is.
Well, no, he still believes Israel has a right to defend itself. He's still going with that. They just were a little bit heavy-handed.
Just a tad.
Palestinian civilians have died, and because the population is half under 18, it is absolutely outrageous now that so many young people have been killed. But that doesn't change the fact that 364 Israeli civilians and other nationalities were killed that day at a music festival. And when Bono sings a song about them and pays a tribute to them, you attack him.
They said to me, don't raise your voice. You know what he's like. And I said, yeah, I do.
What am I like?
See, he's like that. All right. This is a complete false equivalence.
I'm not making a false equivalence.
He's interrupting again.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to the camera. The oppressor,
I love this.
The state of Israel, is committing genocide on a whole people.
Thank you. I love that because I knew who he was talking to. He was talking to us. And Piers doesn't get that because Piers doesn't talk to us. He just talks, likes to hear him. He just talks to talk. So he can't fathom that someone's actually talking to the people that they're sitting in front of. I think that's great.
What I've always loved about Roger is that he is, and this is what I would say to him if he was ever, kind enough to grace us on our channel, is that as much as it is detestable that Bono is conducting himself the way that he is, it's not a surprise.
He's just Bruce, but on another continent. And quite honestly,
again, reading my brain, I would tell him that the person who truly discourages me and disturbs me more than anybody is Springsteen, because Bruce knows exactly what's going on.
So does Bono. Are you kidding me?
But I don't think Bono cares. I think Bono's a fraud. I think Bruce is a coward. I think Bruce is too afraid to pick. Listen, why?
That's worse.
I agree. It probably is.
No,
it is worse
that's
because
worse.
it does feel better. So the fact that why? Because John Landau happens to be Jewish? Is that what the problem is, Bruce? Like, what the fuck is it? The idea that you would be stone silent for this. You have never said anything. And I mean anything about the Palestinian people.
I can't with him. All right. But Bono is at this point been disappointing for years.
Bono has this, like I said,
he gets to be Irish.
Well, that's why I said in the rare instance where a Brit outflanks an Irishman on the issue of Israel-Palestine, you have to celebrate it.
I could be Irish. I could be Irish more than that.
If there is one thing I can absolutely say, as much as I love you two, Roger Waters, Bono cannot hold a candle to him in terms of his musical acumen, his songwriting, and his overall position in history in terms of a rock and roll artist. There is no comparison.
No.
And Bono has always had listen, forget the fact that people think Bono is CIA or that he's involved with any of these other things. Let me tell you what would not shock me regarding Bono and the little that I know about him in terms of his extracurricular activities. If that man has not been to the island, I would be very surprised. He's one of those people that when you talk about the millions of unredacted files that are still out there that don't get talked about, Bono is one of those people I have always been suspicious of in terms of what he's up to. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's either deliberately into that world or he's been blackmailed into that world, and that's why he doesn't say anything. But kudos to Roger Waters.
Richard
Richard
Marx died.
Richard Marx?
I think he died.
Maybe.
I think Richard Marx died. I think he died a couple years ago. Just saying.
Well, to really, the reason why it's so imperative that you speak up against these atrocities when you do is because the whitewashing of history is real. And for all too long, we have found that even in real time, people will still try to do it. Even during the Great Awakening,
They're doing it now. They're doing it in front of us.
Doing it right now. And so I know you said you didn't, want me to have to mention another rabbi, but we have no choice.
All right, guys, let me just clear this up for a second. Richard Marx was an 80s singer. He was married to Cynthia Rhodes. I think he died. I think they were divorced, and then I think he died. But you got to look him up. And it's a lot of like 80s music. Go on.
Even today, as we've had multiple surviving members of the USS Liberty on our channel, it is a reflection of exactly why we have to do what we do, why we have to constantly repeat the stories that we repeat. Because
someone's repeating the wrong stories over and over. So we have to be constantly battling the narrative.
And this is why, as much as I have sympathy for the non-Zionist Jews that are out there that are trying their very best to not have themselves affiliated and associated with all that is going on right now, unfortunately, the Zionist Jews' voices are drowning out the anti-Zionist voices. I'm sure when we go to DC, hopefully Medea will be there. Hopefully some activities will be going.
I messaged Medea and told her that we're going to be in the area, and she said we could definitely get together. But I don't know that there's anything in particular to going on. But yeah.
Again, it's almost 2 months from now. We'll worry about it then. Sister.
No, I just told you. I said we're going to see Medea when we're in DC. How is that killing the vibe? She said she's happy.
Well, listen, when we get there, we should probably organize. We should organize an event, to be honest.
I know that, but it requires really somebody who lives there to really help us do that. Is the problem, because neither of us are there.
I think if we have like a mini venue or something where people could just come to, I think that would.
Yes, I know. I've thought of all of these things already. Trust me. Yes, I understand, and it still is better off with someone who knows the area and understands it. Yes, and we have to have a schedule and what we're doing, and yeah, I think that would be way fun.
So when it comes to the story of the USS Liberty, we are still living in a time where there is this desire to whitewash it out of history, even when members are still alive. It's a lot easier to whitewash it when they're all dead, but they're not. And so this is just another prime example of what we're facing right now as we stare down the barrel of a very loaded gun that is not only war in Iran, but quite frankly, could very well be World War III. And so Rabbi Poopko, what a name, let's talk about the USS Liberty and the madness of those who keep bringing it up as some sign for an anti-American conspiracy by Israel. USS Vincentis shot down Iran Air Flight 655 and killed 290 people. Whoops, mistake, never mind. The U.S. Air Force fires at Iraq's Amaria shelter in 1991, killing over 400 Iraqi civilians, thinking they were Iraqi's army. Whoops, mistake, never mind. Again, they're talking like we are on the side of U.S. imperialism. They're trying to, again, they know that the U.S. is their bitch, and yet they still want to smack them around and be like, oh, yeah, well, they're the real killers. We just tell them what to do. The U.S. Air Force bombing an Iraqi wedding in Mukesh, Iraq in 2003. Let's move on. The U.S. Air Force bombs a civilian train in Gridleka, Serbia, 1999.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Colin.
Oh, okay.
Never heard of it, but whoops to that. The USS Liberty failing to receive 5 different telegram messages from the NSA telling it to move out of the area it is in. As the U.S. told Israel none of its ships are in the area, Israel acts on the messages it got from the U.S. and assumes it is an Egyptian ship, killing by accident 34 U.S. sailors, heavily compensating, can't spell for shit, families of victims and apologizing for 50 full years. Well, that is something we must keep discussing and speculating about. Okay, first of all, you're a lying sack of shit. Let's just get that out of the way. No, there were no messages incurring from the NSA that there was a ship that didn't belong there. They knew that a U.S. ship was there. They had tags, they had flags, they had everything. You could see it from the air that this was a U.S. ship. This wasn't an Egyptian ship. But that's not the point. The point was that this was supposed to be another Gulf of Tonkin incident. The goal was to sink the ship. And if you look at how many artillery shells actually hit the USS Liberty, you would know that the intention was to sink it. Not, oh, mistaken identity. Hey, it's the US. Stop shooting at us. Thousands of rounds. 34 dead, 170 wounded, and many others died after the fact. The psychopaths going on social media the psychopaths, yeah, you would know, Rabbi, desecrating the memory of the American servicemen of the USS Liberty. This man speaking on behalf of the survivors of the USS Liberty. Keep that in mind. He thinks he's speaking on their behalf. Boy, you thought little Ben Shapiro was a bad hombre. This guy's bad. To peddle their cheap conspiracy theories against Israel are doing no favors to the U.S. by obsessively repeating the same regurgitated disinformation about this unfortunate tragedy. No, the unfortunate tragedy is that you still have pull within our government. And as you tend to want to rewrite history, which is always the case with Israel, and that's what they do because they're as fake as a $3 bill, we're now going to prove to you, much as it was on that fateful day, and you're going to want to check out the clip that's dropping at 10 p.m. Eastern time tonight after our live stream. This is a clip that you're not going to find in too many places. This is from 9/11.
It was an explosion. It was in the lobby, and the third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
What was it like? What was it like?
Horrible. It's like no. The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Was that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the
Yeah, definitely a secondary explosion. But we was inside waiting to go upstairs, and on the way upstairs, the whole fucking thing blew. And we just collapsed on everybody inside the lobby.
Someone to the first tower coming down, secondary.
I don't know about the first one, but I know the second was terrible. Then there was a third one too after that one. Yes. Everybody was inside the building, waiting to go upstairs, and they just let loose. Everything just let loose.
So there was a third explosion. Well, that's interesting. Well, there's some information. You know.
That's what I'm always going to believe.
Yeah.
Always.
I mean, and this is not the first instance where I have seen firefighters contradicting the narrative and this was not brought to the forefront. There's a conversation that was had between one of the firefighter chiefs on the ground outside and the firefighters in the tower. And what they were reporting inside the tower is not what we were told.
Explosions.
That's what I'm saying. And I will always believe the firefighters.
So what you told me is that there was a plane or whatever hit the building, and then the secondary explosion.
It was like 3 explosions after that. We came in after the fire. We came when the fire was going on already. We was in the staging area inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. And then the whole lobby collapsed on the lobby inside.
I wonder that
just everybody trying to work their way out.
Trying to help all the brothers get out.
Probably not. And I'm going to say that given by what they're covered with, that probably not. A lot of
they're
these
all covered in asbestos.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, a lot of them, and the ones who are still around, a lot of them are still suffering from major health complications. So who knows? But yeah, why haven't we seen this video before?
This is exactly why when people say that Silverstein, in his connections with Israel, 1000% orchestrated this event. And again, does this mean that Aswari and Atta did not fly those planes into the North and South Tower? No, I'm sure they did. But do you really think that this wasn't Operation Main Event? That this wasn't a planned event? That this was not something that they allowed to have happen? As I said, Do you realize how close West Point is to Lower Manhattan? Do you realize how quickly those F-35s would have intercepted those?
Right. There was a stand down order to some extent. And not just that, quite honestly, but there were pre-planned explosives in these buildings. They were set to be demolished. They were set to be demolished.
And I am in no way,
that's just what it sounds like.
And I am in no way, shape, or form ever defending George W. when I say this. But you want to talk about the village idiot that they put into the White House? Wow. You want to talk about a person who was completely kept in the dark from a lot of the shit that was really going on?
He couldn't have handled the truth, and he also wasn't smart enough to really wrap his head around what needed to be done anyway.
Hence why the Supreme
Court. That's why he was there.
Yeah, the Supreme Court installed the president. And at the end of the day, Dick Cheney was the one running the show. Dick Cheney, who was never elected to anything and selected himself as the vice president. And then the next thing you know, he gets in there and he's running the show. I mean, for the love of Christ, how?
That was all put in the plans and all of that about 9/11 and what our response to be. All of those things were put into play into a plan years before. People like Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz and Cheney, those guys were planning that from the Reagan days. That was their plan from the Reagan days. But Bush Sr., who actually was pretty bright, knew that was a bad idea, which is, you know, they had to wait out Clinton. But you see, that's why they probably got rid of him after his first term.
This is exactly why. And again, this is one of the things about our channel where it gets heavily suppressed. When we cover stories like Lutnick and Silverstein, they heavily suppress them because they know we're itching a little too close to the truth. Now, of course, what we probably should do is at least once a week. And again, just so you guys know, keep this in mind, the clip that we are dropping tonight in just over 45 minutes, it is demonetized. So you're definitely going to want to check it out because it hits on a lot of what we're talking about right now and from a different angle. So keep that in mind and we'll finish this out.
A lot of people trapped inside. I was sitting in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, close to Brooklyn. We watched the first explosion. As we watched the building, we saw a black, very large airplane fly right into the second building. It came out of the south, right in front of our eyes. Just, it was so surreal, like a movie set.
Second and third explosions also, right?
We were in the building for the third one. It collapsed. I was on this drive here for the other one.
People don't understand. There may be more. Any one of these fucking buildings could blow up. This ain't done yet.
This is on top of this. This could be no worse than this. Could be nothing no more worse than this. You're in the building trying to help people, and it's exploding on the inside the building. So.
The person who wants to know the name of the man that took out the insurance policy, that's Silverstein.
Larry Silverstein.
Larry Silverstein.
He owned the World Trade Center, and he took out like a 99-year lease agreement on the property. And within like a month, maybe 6 weeks of when the attack happened, he took out terrorism insurance on the property. And the payout was $4 billion. You know who gave him that payout? Not Governor Pataki. Governor, I am into hookers, Spitzer. This is why people hate Jews. It's understandable because the Zionist Jews who run the world, you know, kind of like the banking cartels. This is a prime example of how the conflation between Zionism and Judaism must be interlinked, because if it's not, they're going to be able to continue to get away with what they're getting away with.
So apparently today is the anniversary of the first World Trade Center bombing in 93.
1993, that's correct.
Yeah, today.
Yeah, 1993.
I remember it.
I remember it well too. My late grandfather was actually a hero that day. He was a bus driver. He actually helped get a bunch of kids out of there. It was pretty bad. But they did these.
And that's what pisses me off the most right there. That. The hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy, of course.
I don't care if he is into hookers. I don't care if he's into hookers. I don't care if he cheats on his wife. I care that you do that and then make it not legal for other people.
Well, what about all the closeted homosexual politicians, like the guy who was constantly pushing anti-gay legislation, who got caught in that Minnesota bathroom with the shit under the stall? That's still one of my all-time favorite stories. That is an all-timer. And
Medi wants to know if I could tell her why so many Jewish last names are earth metals like gold, silver, diamond. I don't know. I don't know why.
And that's very interesting. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
think about that. So here's where we bring it all together.
Mine wasn't that.
So when you think about what's going on right now and all of these young men and women that are on these aircraft carriers in West Asia, and at any moment, something bad could happen, and nobody is asking their opinion about whether they should be there or not. This is why this is from 2003.
Some Republicans out there have been saying that Ron Paul would be very dangerous for this country because he wants to bring troops like you back from your post from all over the world.
Well, I think it would be even more dangerous to start nitpicking wars with other countries. Someone like Iran, Israel is more than capable of.
All right, we just lost that connection, unfortunately. Wait, Dan, I got to stand by. If you can hear me, we're going to get back to Katie Crowley.
They cut him off. He was just about to say, I don't think we need to do that. Israel's more than capable. And there you go.
And Wolf Blitzer.
And they're not, though, really. But they're not really. They would be for a very short time, and then it would be done because at the end, like, they can't replenish without us. So they could, to some extent, handle their own shit for a very brief period of time. And they were barely able to do that back in June during the 12-day war. I hate calling it that. That's so stupid.
And on top of everything else, again, cliche, and more cliche. Wolf frickin' Blitzer, who has always been an ardent Jewish Zionist, who always is ready, willing, and able. And again, this is not the only one. There are many instances that you can look up of Blitzer cutting off somebody who went off script. This is not new. And if it goes,
he's like a major neocon war hawk supporter. Always.
Always has.
That guy has not met a war he hasn't cheerled since I've seen him.
Again, the two biggest Jewish Zionists at CNN. You've got Wolf Blitzer and you've got Dana Bash. And they are ready, willing, and able at all times to espouse that pro-Israel narrative, period, without hesitation. And you know what people like Dana Bash and Wolf Blitzer have in common with the typical Zionist Jew? They will never, ever sign up to put their lives on the line to defend this country from enemies, foreign and domestic. But they sure as shit will send others to do it for them, because that's what Jewish supremacy looks like in real time. And trying to break free of that is not easy. With that being said, we come to the conclusion of the evening with a little story, a story that Jen really wanted to touch on.
Which one is that?
Well, you know, the Babe in the Woods routine may work, bless you, may work for some people. I didn't say God bless you, though. I only said bless you.
Well, because I'm an atheist, that would be silly, wouldn't it?
Hillary Clinton was in court.
Oh, yes. How did I forget? You know what? And I was so enjoying the night up to this point, and I actually forgot about that. And I knew something. I knew that we can't just let me be.
Well, this is a good way to finish it, so that way you don't have to be miserable for the rest of the evening, but this is definitely important.
Introducing.
Here is my opening statement to the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee today.
Okay, so let me give a little background, because we don't always do that. And I think people, especially people who are listening. So if people don't know, Hillary Clinton today testified before Congress regarding the Epstein files. And I'm personally just shocked that she was less than truthful. I always held Hillary up to be like a beacon of truth telling and sincerity. So I know I'm very taken aback that she was less than honest, but go ahead.
For sure. Colin, pull up the transcript, please. Secretary Clinton's opening statement. Mr. Chairman, ranking member, members of the committee. As a former senator, I have respect for legislative oversight, and I expect its exercise, as do the American people, to be principled and fearless in pursuit of truth and accountability. As we all know, however, too often congressional investigations are partisan political theater, which is an abdication of duty and an insult to the American people.
Wait. I'm sorry. Did Hillary Clinton just intimate
of the Clinton Foundation
that congressional investigations are partisan political theater? Okay. Noted. All right, because that's very rich coming from her. Okay.
The committee justified its subpoena to me based on its assumption that I have information regarding the investigations into the criminal activities of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. No, they were just at your daughter's wedding, but what the hell would you know about them? Am I right? Yeah, because
it isn't just that. Continue, because I have a lot of thoughts about Hillary that I feel I need to share.
Let me be as clear as I can. I do not. As I stated in my sworn declaration on January 13th, since when would signing anything with any type of, there would be no adjudication on her behalf ever, and I mean ever. I had no idea about their criminal activities. Zero. I'm a babe in the woods. I don't know shit. I do not recall ever encountering Mr. Epstein. Again, there's the lawyer speak. I don't recall. I never flew on his plane or visited his island. Remember the language here. Very clear. I do not recall ever encountering Mr. Epstein, which means she's lying. I never flew on his plane or visited his island. There she's telling the truth. Homes or offices. I have nothing to add to that. Like every decent person, I have been horrified. But what we have learned about their crimes, it's unfathomable that Mr. Epstein initially got a slap on the wrist in 2008, which allowed him to continue his predatory practices for another decade. Mr. Chairman, your investigation is supposed to be assessing the federal government's handling of investigations and prosecutions of Epstein and his crimes. You subpoenaed 8 law enforcement officials, all of whom ran the Department of Justice or directed the FBI. When Epstein's crimes were investigated and prosecuted, of those 8, only 1 appeared before the committee. 5 of the 6 former attorney generals were allowed to submit brief statements stating they had no info to provide. You have held 0 public hearings, refused to allow the media to attend them, including today, despite espousing the need for transparency on dozens of occasions. You have made little effort to call the people who show up most prominently in the Epstein files. And when you did, not a single Republican member showed up for Les Wexner's deposition. Well, that may be true. Do you want to jump in?
You want me to be this bitch? The Institute. I mean, I just feel like I don't even know why we want to read this nonsense, because I don't believe anything that comes out of her lying mouth. She's a snake. Now, she can sit there and we could talk to me, and this, I really am speaking to anybody who ever supported Hillary Clinton in 2016, as a candidate, if you ever supported Hillary Clinton. If you believe, you have to believe one of 2 things. There's only 2 options here, right? Either she's lying about what she knew, or she's a moron. So for all you people that think she's so smart and you voted for her, I don't understand. Is she a liar or is she a moron? She's one or the other.
The initial failure is designed to protect one political party and one public official. Is that so? Okay, because this is now a Democrat-Republican thing, apparently. And I am furious. My heart breaks for the survivors, and I am furious on their behalf. I have spent my life advocating for women and girls. Yeah, you sure have. I have worked hard to stop the terrible abuses so many women and girls face here and around the world, including human trafficking, forced labor, and sexual slavery, except in Haiti, of course. For too long, these have been largely invisible crimes or not treated as crimes at all, but the survivors are real and they are entitled to better. In Southeast Asia, I met girls as young as 12 who were forced into prostitution and raped repeatedly. Some were dying of AIDS in Eastern Europe. Again, what is this? A resume?
It's what I can tell you what it is. It's she's whatchamacallit. She's redirecting. She's redirecting and distracting, and she's the one turning it into a partisan circus. She's making this be about her integrity, when she was in office. This has anything to do with anything. No, it's your husband was a willing participant in a sex trafficking ring and you knew about it. Oh, yes. And then you invited the sex trafficker to your daughter's wedding. And now you're pretending that you didn't know anything. And I don't believe you. And for the people that think Hillary could be both a moron and a liar, she could be. There are a lot of people that are both. She's not a moron.
She's a psychopath.
She's not a moron. So I assure you, she's a psychopath and liar.
Yeah. And the reason she's a psychopath is because she is very smart. She's a smart.
That's what I mean. No, she is not. My point is, She's not a moron. So for people who wanted to ever think she was all that, so now you have to accept she's lying. Because she's saying she had no idea. Your husband was on that plane 26 times, and this woman was invited to your daughter's wedding, and all of this stuff was going on, and you had no idea? I don't believe so. I don't believe that for a second.
I don't believe it either. If you are new to this issue, let me tell you, Jeffrey Epstein was a heinous individual, but he's far from alone. This is not a one-off tabloid sensation or a political scandal. It's a global scourge. How do you say that word?
Scourge.
Scourge with an unimaginable human toll.
She got that from Bush. She got that from Bush. That was his word from Senior. It was a scourge.
Scourge. As secretary, listen, you want to talk about a small club and you're not invited? The Clintons and the Bushes love each other. As Secretary of State, I appointed my work combating sex trafficking goes back to my days as First Lady, because again, she can't brag about herself enough. I worked past the first federal legislation against trafficking and was proud that my husband signed I was also proud of him sexually assaulting young girls, but in this case, he made up for it, signing the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, which increased support for survivors and gave prosecutors better tools for going after trafficking.
Yes, but not the ones that you were inviting to Chelsea's wedding. See, that's the problem. You were okay with them going after some sex traffickers? Sure, maybe.
Then she has more bragging to do. As Secretary of State, when I decided to start 5 different wars, and she's the one responsible, not Obama, I appointed a former federal prosecutor, Lou Sabaka, to ramp up our global anti-trafficking efforts by invading 5 countries. I oversaw nearly 170 anti-traffic let me tell you something. This is a woman who wakes up in a cold sweat at least once a week, thinking that she became president and then realized she didn't.
I don't want to read. I don't want to hear this whole thing. I really don't. She's just sitting here boasting on herself. It's absurd. And she may or may not have done any of those things. I don't know. And I don't care. None of this, again, this is sort of like Pam Bondi. None of this is the reason she was brought there. What I'm finding, and again, I find this with all these things, I don't know why they bother bringing these people to talk to them. None of them tell the truth.
I mean, when she's up there saying, this is just political theater, you damn right it is with your ass. I insisted that the U.S. be included in the report for the first time ever in 2011 because we must hold ourselves not just to the same standard as the rest of the world, but to an even higher one. Sex trafficking and modern slavery should have no place in America, none. But they can't have it in Haiti. That's okay.
But the Dow.
It's up. Colin, where are you? There you are. Infuriatingly, the Trump administration gutted the Trafficking in Persons Office at the State Department, cutting more than 70% of the career civil and foreign service experts who worked so hard to prevent trafficking.
I don't understand this. I cannot listen to this.
Let me say one thing in defense of libertarianism, Thomas Massie style. Let me assure you that the 70% that probably was gutted from this department more than deserved to get it. Because the one thing you learn outside of very rare exceptions when it comes to federal bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., these agencies don't do anything. The only thing they do is suck the lifeblood out of this country. That's all it does. So the idea that they're actually out there dealing with this, you've said how many times, Jen, how much could we actually cut down, like the New York City Police Department, the NYPD's budget? Like how much could that be?
I support, everyone knows I'm an abolitionist. I don't believe in policing, but I would suggest that 4% of the crimes that are reported are the violent crimes that we're concerned about. So therefore, I think that their budgets should be about 4% of what they are. That's just me. But again, I'm an abolitionist, so.
Great. A committee endeavoring to stop human trafficking would seek to understand what specific steps are needed to fix a system that allowed Epstein to get away with his crimes. Why don't you talk to your husband about that one? A committee run by elected officials with a commitment to transparency would ensure the full release of all the files. It would ensure the lawful redactions, blah, 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 blah. Pull that. It would demand testimony from prosecutors in New York and Florida and why they gave Epstein a sweetheart deal and chose not to. Why don't you talk to Obama? He was the one who was president.
Honestly, we do not need to hear this testimony. We do not need to read this whole testimony, Peter. We really don't. It's silly. She's not answering the question.
Scroll down a little bit more, Colin. Okay, right there. Hold it. I would demand it would demand that Secretary Rubio and Attorney General Bondi testify about this administration in abandoning survivors and playing into the hands of traffickers. It would seek out officers on the front lines in this fight and ask them what support they need. It would put forth legislation to blah 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 blah. Yeah, she's
again. We don't need to read this. She's not answering the question.
Last page.
Okay.
But that's not happening. Instead, you have compelled me to testify, fully aware that I have no knowledge that I would assist your investigation in order to distract attention from President Trump's actions and to cover them.
Oh my God, she cannot help herself.
Yeah, she has nightmares about it. When it is well documented that on the night of the election in 2016, when she lost Florida and it became clear that she was going to lose, she physically assaulted Rabbi Mook. That she threw a lamp
up because I want to wrap and I don't want to hear this anyway. So wrap it up.
This committee is serious about learning the truth about Epstein's trafficking crimes. It would not rely on press gaggles to get answers from our current president or his involvement. It would ask him directly under oath about the tens of thousands of times he showed up in the Epstein files.
Oh my God, this spoken by a woman whose husband lied under oath. Why would asking him under oath matter to you? Why would asking anybody asking her something under oath is completely irrelevant. And for who said she's a sociopath, not a psychopath? I'm not sure with this one, to be honest with you.
No, I think she takes.
I'm not sure that Hillary's not a psychopath.
No, I think Hillary actually gets enjoyment out of hurting people.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. But the fact that she's
very vindictive.
Stupid, please wrap. I don't want to hear any more of her stupid shit.
I just have to say, you invoked my name and you said that I have lied. I never lied with knowledge of lying.
What is being held back? Who is being protected? And why the cover up? Tell us, bitch. You tell us. That's your husband was on the Lolita Express 26 times, not my husband, your husband.
My challenge to you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, is the same challenge I put to myself throughout my long service to this nation. Again, she is so upset. She again, the ego. You think Trump has an ego? This woman, I'm glad we ruined her life. I am. I'm glad we ruined it. Now, she would drone bomb me, just like she said. Can't we just drone bomb Assange? Remember that one? Because that's the mark of a psychopath. That's how psychopaths talk. How to be worthy
she's a psychotic narcissist at best.
They expect statesmanship, not gamesmanship, leading, not grandstanding. They expect you to use your power to get the truth and to do more to help survivors of Epstein's crimes, as well as the millions more who are victims of sex trafficking.
So she just got up there and obviously didn't answer the question.
Not at all.
Pled complete ignorance, which is complete bullshit. And then went on basically bragging tirade, I guess, about all of her quote unquote accomplishments that have nothing to do with the fact that she is aware that her husband and a whole bunch of her Epstein elite class friends are that. So she can pretend all she wants. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees it, Hillary.
Yeah.
Except for maybe people like Cheryl, like the people that are still with her.
Well, that's what I'm still with her with the ring.
Make it go away. Make it go away. I can't.
At least we didn't have to see her mug, but you did a really good job. I will tell you, she's not reptilian the way that DWS is, but we are surrounded by lizard people.
We are surrounded by lizard people.
I mean, Peter Thiel looks like he's about to break out of his skin at any moment.
No, he's a lizard.
But let me tell you, considering how hard I personally worked to help Bernie's campaign in 2016, the night of that election, I may not have been supporting Donald Trump, but I took a certain amount of satisfaction knowing just how unconscionably devastated and destroyed that woman was.
I know. I honestly, and then I also take pleasure in the fact that she got to relive it when she went through it with Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
So here's Hillary going through Kamala's loss, aka her Kamala puppet. And yeah, this made me very happy as well. You know what I mean? I mean, that pleased me too. Every time she has to suffer a loss based on her complete deserving of said loss, it's satisfying.
And let's conclude with this note. No matter how bad things get, let me assure you, if Hillary Clinton sticks her nose into the 2028 presidential race, the GOP will play it for all it's worth. And I can assure you, it will help them most likely win again. That's what they're counting on. If you've enjoyed the conversation this evening, which we hope you have, one more time, we certainly hope that you all will consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. Again, for as little as $5 a month.
You can actually join for free, though.
And you could join for free, but
you can. And I would like people to go do that.
Support our channel either way. That's what I say. Wanker Tanker, thank you for the $2. Dear Huck, Jesus is not a country. Well, Jesus is a lot of things, but he is not who Huckabee presents him to be. Black Spock Worf with the $2 super sticker. Thank you very, very much.
That's interesting. Do you know who Worf was, right?
Yes, I do.
Who was Worf?
He was the Klingon.
Okay.
Klingon.
Yes. Yeah. Security officer.
I know a few things. I know a few things.
Okay.
I know a few things. Soon heaven with the $2. Our government is incompetent. God help us. Yeah, it is. Jim
I wish I believed in God. See, this would be a good time for me. Like, this would be a good time to start drinking. You know, like if this is the time for atheists, maybe we should start believing because, you know, we're going to need it. No, just
Talib with the $5. Always a pleasure, my friend. Marvin Vargas with the $1.99. Have Yana Ben Noon his book, Noahide Laws Come to Us. Thank you for the recommendation. Take a look, Rachel, if you can. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Zio like 90% evangelical women report sexual abuse. Probably. Just like all of the Hasidic Jews. That's a common practice in their community. Notice how it's always the men that are the most, when it comes to that community in particular. Again,
everyone's wanting me to go drinking. Don't you guys worry. I have my drug of choice.
Yeah, and it's less dangerous on the road. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Again, let's make it happen. Let Roger see Palestine free. Oh, listen, we would definitely like to have him on. Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Again, you do not mistake an American ship. Breezy.
No.
Right, you don't. That's why Zios suck. Pirate Justin with the $2. Read your name as.
No, he meant read your name as Perelman for the longest time. Well, it is pronounced Perelman, but just so people realize that's not my name. That's my husband's name.
Pilchick.
I'm a Pilchick. Yeah.
Media La Grande Sur with the €5. Hasta la victoria siempre. If you're coming from Spain, thank you so very much for your support.
Long live the victory. Always live the victory. I think it's victory always, something like that. Siempre is always, hasta is like live the victory, long live victory or something like that. Always victory.
It's
come over to the light, Jen. Are you talking about the drinking light? I'm so much not a drinker.
Es la noche, pero buenos dias. So I just said, I know it's late, but I'm saying good morning to somebody who right now.
Soy gringa, lo siento. That's all you have to say. I say soy gringa, lo siento, and they feel bad for me.
It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. Alex Scott Mittens with the $2. We're not here because we voted for Hillary.
I know there's not Hillary people in there. I know we don't have Hillary.
There's one person we know who isn't, it would be that. Alex Scott Mittens with the $2. Hit the like button and subscribe, everyone. Thank you for being an amazing supporter of our channel. Dieter McBusiness, where the hell have you been? Thank you for the $1.99. Thoughts on the DSA? I'm trying to help with their YouTube. Here's what I would say. Like anything, keep it local. The DSA at the top sucks. DSA chapters at the local level, like a lot of other organizations, they can be really good. That's what I say.
Here's the thing. I've lost a lot of respect for DSA over the past couple of years. I do not feel that they have taken stances that would best align with what their purported plans, interest, platform are. I think that they tolerate people claiming to be democratic socialists that are not democratic socialists. So they've reduced what their meaning is by not forcing their people to abide by their principles. And I think that's a problem I have with them. But given that, there are still a lot of good people in DSA chapters that are doing good work.
When you
Democratic Socialists of America, Mehdi, Democratic Socialists of America.
When you lock arms with the establishment, as the DSA has done, you get what you get.
If you affiliate with the Democratic Party in any capacity, as an NGO, as a PAC, as any sort of Dem group, you are compromised.
Agreed.
And you cannot be effective if you're compromised. So there's that.
Alex Godmittens with the $2. Keep going, Jen and Peter. Hi, Colin. Gulp. Wanker Tanker with the $2 to close us out. Stock market is not the economy. The end. Couldn't agree more. On Saturday night, I'm going to have a handful of big topics. Might have a guest. We will talk about that. Could be a big one. We will see. I am going to do, just so you know, the Tyler Oliveira story regarding what's going on in Lakewood, New Jersey was an hour and 15 minutes long. I have already listened to it, and I've already broken it down. It's going to be about 12 minutes long. So if you're not familiar with what is going on, I am going to share with you further detail on Saturday. Also, Candace Owens has started her series on Erica Kirk. Let me tell you, I listened to that and I broke it down to about 2 or 3 minutes where a former or an actress who knows Erica Kirk broke it down perfectly. That's something that we will cover. There will also be plenty of other stories, I am sure, that will come up on Saturday night.
But it is time for us to go because I got to go get over to my other chat. I got to go see my punch-up peeps.
Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We appreciate you all. I'll see you Saturday.
Free Palestine.
Good night, guys.